So here's the deal. As you may be aware, the remnants of a tropical storm are coming through the state of Maryland today. And when I arrived here at the studio at Press Box this morning, I noticed that the internet was down when I got in. And, I turned on the TV so I could watch the water polo. Thanks a lot, jerks. They lost to Serbia in the semifinals. When I turned on the TV to watch the water polo, I couldn't connect to the internet there. I said, "Oh, this is an issue," but everything was fine, and the power stayed on, and the internet stayed on. I said, "All right, well, whatever it was, we got through it." And then at 10:15 or whatever time it was, because 10,
you jinxed it.
Is that what happened?
When we talked about Annapolis, you said,
here
it's just windy.
It really is what it looks like.
Yeah.
But no, we had a power surge, and unfortunately, that knocked everything out, and we got back, and we're back, and I don't know what this is going to look like ultimately. We're going to do our best to bring you a show today.
We're going to soldier on.
Yeah, we're going to do our best. If it keeps happening, then at some point we'll say, not worth it. Not worth it. But we're going to do our best to bring it up. By the way, Wall Street Window says the biggest issue for the Orioles is that they're missing Jorge Mateo, and that who could have possibly seen that coming because of what it's done defensively. And the point that you and I were talking about the defensive issues,
right?
And your hypothetical scenario about the defense moving forward, but for now, the bigger
moving forward, perhaps next year.
The bigger problem, right? This, you are where you are.
Yeah.
You now have to play Ramon Arias again because you just can't get away with Kobe Mayo playing third base frequently. You can stick him out there every now and then, but all week trying to get away with Ryan O'Hearn playing a corner outfield position, it didn't necessarily bite you the first couple nights playing left field. Obviously, it bit you big time last night as he played that into a triple, which ended up ultimately, who knew at the time, proving to be the winning run.
Right.
The defensive issues are overwhelming at the moment, and it's an add-on to, you already had bullpen issues, and you were already missing 3, now 4 starting pitchers, and it's all of it. And the offense is inconsistent, but still probably good enough that they can figure it out. And I'm not really worried about whether or not this team could win offensively. But I don't think they have enough to be able to survive and win a World Series without fixing their defensive problems.
Well, they've got a lot of issues, and first and foremost, it starts with if you remember last year, pretty much everything went right for the Orioles, in terms of health.
Mm-hmm.
The team that was on our tail for most of the year and actually was ahead of us for a while was the Tampa Bay Rays last year.
That's a fact.
And they lost 3 starting pitchers of significant value.
Yep.
They also lost a shortstop.
Not to
probably,
an injury, but to something.
To something far different and far longer than an injury, like forever.
Yeah.
There comes a certain breaking point where your injuries start to overtake you a little bit, and I think that's what the Orioles are facing right now. The effort that Mike Elias, and we can get into why didn't he do a better job at preparing the team for some of the pitching losses, but I think that had to do with the finances of the Angelos ownership at the end.
It is also very difficult to absolve legitimately 4 to 6 pitching in 7. 7 is what we're at now.
Right.
7.
Right.
That's an extraordinary.
No, but what I'm saying is he worked his tail off under new ownership, approving taking on a fairly significant number of dollars here in the short term. He picks up 2 starters. They say, you know what? Jackson Holliday is what we need now. He can really spark this offense. They bring him up, and on the same sequence, they get Jackson Holliday, become a real major leaguer with the grand slam, but the guy on first base was there on first base after being hit by a pitch, and they lost him. And then, if that weren't bad enough, they then lose Grayson Rodriguez. And it just looks like to me, and look, I just want to go over, I do the power rankings.
Can we do this after we talk to Cameron Mabin because he's waiting for us? Is that all right?
I'm sure Cameron wanted to hear about my power rankings.
Let's talk to Cameron Mabin first, and then we're going to talk about that. It is a Friday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Stan the Fan Charles is in studio with us. I'm a big fan of Foul Territory. I'm a regular viewer, and this guy is not only part of that, but you see him all over the place. He is Cameron Mabin, former Major League outfielder. He and former World Series champion. He's with us now here on GCR. Cameron, it's Glenn and Stan in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning.
No, thank you guys for the kind words, and I appreciate you having me on. And I'm sorry to interrupt that power rankings list. I was excited to hear it, man. I didn't mean for them to cut you off for me. I would have listened gladly. So do your thing, baby. I love it.
Cameron, you can read it every week on PressBoxOnline.com. It comes out Monday at noon. Okay?
Oh, man.
Stay less.
Hey, Cameron, I know you were very high on the Orioles. We'll get into some of the Orioles issues, but I know you were very high on their acquisition of Eloy Jimenez. And it was weird because we kept hearing how poisonous it was between the folks in Chicago and Eloy Jimenez. But the way we were talking about it was like, yeah, but he's here to be a platoon hitter, which obviously he's been more than that since he arrived. He's here to be a platoon hitter. There's no long-term investment in Eloy Jimenez. This seems like it's a risk worth taking in the short term. It has certainly been a risk that was worth taking for the Baltimore Orioles.
Absolutely. One thing that I don't think anybody would disagree on is when Eloy Jimenez has been healthy, he has hit, right? So when you look at the need and necessity of Baltimore right now with all of the injuries, and we don't even have to talk about the rotation, but even from a position player standpoint, right now you bring him in as essentially, like you said, a rental, a piece that helps you down the stretch, right? You're not expecting him to play a whole season. You're pretty much bringing him in for half a season of baseball, hoping that he can find some of himself and be that hitter that we've seen him be in Chicago. Two things about Chicago. One, bad baseball is contagious. So anything that might have been going on over there, I don't blame any of those guys that were there for a while, going through those ups and downs, those rebuilds, the dysfunction that they went through. So any player might be a little bit disgruntled or upset with how that organization, the direction that it was going in. But I love what Eloy has done. They needed the offense that he's brought here to this team so far. He's going to be a DH. You're not going to have to worry about him playing any defense. So I think that was a great move. I think it was a much-needed move because one thing you can never have enough pieces of is enough pieces of depth, and he's another added depth piece who came in right now, and he's looked like a much-needed bat in that lineup.
I think the issue, you bring up the fact that he's not going to play defense, and that, again, 100%, although I think he said something like he'd like to. He's just not healthy enough right now that he can be able to do it. I think that
they burned his glove.
They said, don't bother bringing it. Don't bother. You can leave that in Chicago.
Only gloves you need are the batting gloves.
Right,
100%.
exactly.
Bring those with you. That's what we got for you. I do think, though, and Stan and I were talking about it earlier this morning, Cameron, one of the concerns that we have about this team at the moment, because I do, to your point, I think they're going to be okay offensively and can compete. But the defensive troubles they have found of late, whether it's been Gunnar Henderson, who had been so reliable to start the season and then just has been a bit of a mess defensively the last couple of months. They tried to put Kobe Mayo at third. That's not working. They've been trying to get away with Ryan O'Hearn playing in the outfield. That's not working. Jackson Holliday struggling at second. Is it just like what do you make of the defensive problems that the Orioles have run into in the recent months?
Well, a couple things. You bring up Kobe Mayo, who right now, who I think he has a chance to be fine, but right now, you've seen it before and you've seen it again. The speed of the game, eating a young prospect up. And I tell people all the time, the level between AAA and the big leagues are two totally different levels. So we get enamored sometimes of seeing guys, raking and just demolishing AAA, but it's two totally different games. One offensively is different, and defensively it's still a faster game. So I think when you talk about the defensive woes, I think that's what you're seeing. I think you're seeing a game that's a little bit faster than what these guys are used to, especially when you talk about Mayo, Holliday. This is just my personal opinion. I thought Jackson Holliday was done a disservice by not playing strictly second base. At the end of the day, he's a shortstop by nature. He can always go back and play short, but in off season, in spring training, this guy should have been playing nothing but second base, getting him ready, knowing that Gunnar Henderson is your shortstop of the future. So for me, I think they did a little bit of a disservice for him, not getting him just as many reps as possible all spring training, all season going. You're going to be the second baseman. And then you're trying to throw him into a team who is on the uprise, who has now a winning culture. And it can affect you offensively when you're not comfortable defensively. I've seen guys move positions, and I've seen guys go to play different spots where it's like, oh, yeah, I'm an athlete, I can do that. But it affects them because the game's a whole different game. It's the angles, the speed of the ball. Even talking about O'Hearn and left, I was cringing actually watching it, and I give him credit, but I'm like, dude, he's not an outfielder. Like, he should be at first base, but I know you have a logjam with him and Ryan Mountcastle with how they both been swinging the bat. But, yeah, I think it's a lot of guys just playing out of position. And I think as far as Gunnar goes, I just think Gunnar has done so much, right? This guy's still getting used to playing at the big league level, and it's a grind. It's a long marathon. And right now, as far as Gunnar goes, I just see a guy who just may be hitting a little bit of a wall. So hopefully, I don't know how he can get that second win. He just looks a little tired. Bat looks a little slower than it was the first half. The feet look a little bit more sluggish than it did the first half, but that's the grueling nature of being a shortstop, a center fielder, a middle of the infield guy. But I think to long story short, I think playing guys out of position can't be more detrimental than we really think and really realize. It's not that easy to do to switch positions.
We're here in Baltimore where Earl Weaver back in 1982 made the almost incalculable decision in midseason to move Cal Ripken from third base to shortstop. It proved to be an amazing, amazing move. What would you have to see on this team to make the opposite move with Gunnar Henderson? Do you think he is the shortstop of the future, or do you think this team could be better defensively? And I'm not saying they're going to do it now, but next year with Gunnar at third, Holliday at short, and Westberg at second.
Well, I think the question for me is, and one thing I don't want to do is act like I've seen, I've watched a lot of Baltimore Orioles, and what I've seen from Gunnar, I think he's fine. When you talk about, I look around the league, I see Ellie De La Cruz leading the league in errors. I see, O'Neal Cruz tied for the league in errors. I see these guys getting opportunities, and nothing tells me that Gunnar Henderson can't play shortstop at the big league level. Derek Jeter made 20+ errors in his second year or first year at short and the big league level. Gunnar Henderson is still a work in progress. I think we've become so in awe of his talent that what happens is we expect him to do everything right. But this guy's still going to go through growing pains. He's still going to go through the learning curve. I'll give you a great example of a guy who they were just questioning maybe a year ago. Can he play shortstop? Is he going to be the shortstop of the future? And his name is Bobby Witt Jr. I think he's turned out just fine. I think they gave him enough reps. They gave enough time and enough patience to go, he's going to be fine. He's going to mature as he continues to get those reps. The game will slow down. So I personally think Gunnar, he has looked fine. He's hit a wall that a lot of big leaguers have hit defensively. But my question is, I don't know, and this will be a question for you guys because you've seen him more. Is Jackson Holliday, do you guys feel like he's the shortstop of the future? Because what I see in Gunnar Henderson, one, a lot of things I look at, stature. I'm a fan of the big athlete, and I love Jackson Holliday, but I love the size of Gunnar Henderson. I love the aura, just his what's the word I'm looking for? His presence. I love his presence at short. He looks like a shortstop to me. So, when I'm looking at it, if I'm putting my team together, he looks like my shortstop. Jackson looks like my second baseman, and I love what Westberg was doing at third before he got hurt. So for me, that's what I would do, but I think it's more about the organization going, hey, these are the roles that we see you guys in. These are the roles that we see you guys working hard at, and these are the roles we need you guys to focus on. And I think that's the key for getting those guys where they want to be. Not, hey, you might be the shortstop or you might play second. Give those guys a spot. Give those guys a plan and let them stick to it and let them focus on it, especially at a young age, because it's harder to move around positions. You said something. How many Cal Ripkins have been out there? Not very many.
No.
Gunnar Henderson's a great player. Jackson Holliday's probably going to be a great player, but it's hard pressing me to go comparing guys to Cal Ripken. You know what I mean? Those are different. He's a different animal. So for me, I like what I've seen. I just think these guys, most of these guys 2 years ago got used to the season wrapping up here in about a month. So these are what they call the dog days of summer, and they're just going through it right now.
Cameron, one thing about the type of errors that Gunner's making, several of them are where he just would be better off holding on to the ball. How do you coach a guy who thinks he can do everything, and you like players that think they can do everything, but they say discretion's the better part of valor, holding on to the ball simply when you really don't have a real chance to get the guy, and then you give him an extra base?
Yeah, you see it all the time. I coach a 16U national team, and I've got a team full of talent. And one thing that, I think one of the best things that I learned when I got into pro ball, and I honestly never heard it until I got into pro ball, and the scoreboard will dictate how you play defense, right? The scoreboard will dictate how you run the bases. I think he's just got to learn his game management a little bit more, right? His game clock. I think he's so talented. Like you said, he thinks he can make the play every single play, where sometimes better to just eat it, put it in your pocket, and let the double play stay in order, allow the pitcher to make one pitch, one out, we're out the inning. So I think as he's continued to learn it, and again, he's been so impressive that we even think the IQ is supposed to be there, but he's still learning, right? So how do you do that? You have patience. What I've seen, they have some of the best infield instructors that I've seen. You watch clips all over. These guys are working hard. These guys are working diligently to become better. So I think for Gunner, it's more of those, we used to call them those mental sessions, those skull sessions, where we just, from time to time, we sit down and go, hey, what were you thinking right there, man? Okay, this is what you were thinking. Well, actually right here, I know that's a bang-bang play, but if you're not 110% you can make that play, just eat it. You know what I mean? Like, give them something to really, if you're not 150% sure that you can make that play, hey, let's just play. Let's just get ready for the next one. You know what I mean? You live to fight another day. You live to fight another play. And I think just continuing to try to, hone and really trying to sculpt his mental IQ. He is a great player, but again, these guys are still learning at the highest level. And it took me 5 to 6 years before I really got comfortable. And again, these guys, Gunnar Henderson, a way better player than I was. But sometimes that mental aspect, just to calm down, take a deep breath, and slow the game down. You can see those moments still arise at times for guys like Gunnar Henderson, even as talented as he is. So it's just, for me, it's a part of the learning process. And what happens is when you see a team winning, it's easy to go back into that, what's going on, where, hey, just a few years ago, we were a little bit more patient when they were trying to get to this point. So
that's a great point.
Let's make sure we don't lose that patience as these guys are continuing to still grow into really, really above average big league players.
Cam, I hear you. We're trying to win a World Series in Baltimore. It's been 40
years.
We've lost patience.
Baby. I know it.
Cameron Mabin is with us on GCR. I want to remind everybody that Foul Territory airs live Monday through Friday, 1 to 3 p.m., both on YouTube and on TV on Bally Sports Networks, and also the audio version is available wherever you get your podcasts. Cameron, I know you were once traded for Craig Kimbrell. I couldn't do the math as to whether or not you were actually ever teammates with him anywhere. We're in this weird spot where the Orioles are still in first place, and yet here we are on August 9th, and technically at the moment they don't have a closer. I think most of us believe that at some point they're going to go back to Craig Kimbrell as being the closer. So I'll kind of ask you twofold. One, is that they're still their best bet at this point, is to say, all right, get him refreshed, get him back in the low leverage, and then remember this is still Craig Kimbrell, go with him. And can you trust that Craig Kimbrell can still be the guy in the postseason despite the struggles he's been through this year and obviously what we saw last year with the Phillies?
So the anomaly for me is, I've always been a guy, I don't want to say I'm not a big analytic guy because I think information is wonderful. But as I watch, and I'm still seeing Craig Kimbrell throw 97s up there, throw 98s up there, and I'm going, what's the difference, right? So the RPMs, the spin rate, that must be a real thing, right? It must not have the same life that it once had. Because you're seeing guys get way better cuts, way better swings, have way better plate appearances. But my biggest thing, let me just say this, I watched Craig for a long time, and I faced Craig quite a few times. And what used to make Craig extremely effective to me was that even though he was electric, he was ahead in the count. And one thing the last few years that I watched Craig Kimbrell, it's just too many counts where he's getting deep in counts. He's falling behind, and now guys are getting a better look at his stuff. I think even when I watch right now, Gregory Soto, who is like, hold your breath. He was one of my teammates, some of the best stuff in the game. Well, you look at it and it's 1-0, it's 2-0, it's 3-0. It's always behind in the count. And we could talk about stuff, but for me, it's execution, right? Who's going to be the guy that gets ahead, right? Win the race to 2 strikes. That's what I tell my 16-year-old pitchers. Win the race to 2 strikes. Then when we get there, all of a sudden things start to go a little bit more smoother for us as a pitching staff. So Craig Kimbrell is a guy who I think they trust. I'm going to be completely honest. I think right now I love the way Sir Anthony looks. Not so much as Gregory Soto. I think, again, they got to get him in the zone. But Sir Anthony could definitely be a guy who has some experience. You know, he showed you with the Phillies that he can be extremely dominant. So I think, unfortunately, you would love at this point to have roles locked in. Hey, this is your 6th, 7th inning guy. You're the 8th inning guy. You're the bridge guy. Whoever you are, and you're the closer, I think would be nice. But right now, I'm going to be real with you, and I'm usually completely optimistic, but I don't know who you can trust right now. I mean, the stuff is there, but again, it's been the erraticness for me. The guys not being able to control and pound the strike zone, and that's where they're getting in trouble. Now, if Craig can get back to getting ahead, and if you give it up early in the count, me, a guy that used to play behind those guys, I'm okay with that. But it's when you're 1-0, you're 2-0, you're 2-1, you're giving these guys a chance to get comfortable in the box, and that's where the trouble is coming from for this bullpen right now. So I don't know what they're going to do. I wish I had an answer for you. But right now, to me, if it was my choice, if it was up to me, I'd be looking at Craig and I'd be looking at Sir Anthony to go out there and try to close games. You know, and you know, one thing who you're really missing, I think, was really an unsung hero is Danny Coulomb. Yeah. I mean, Danny Coulomb, that guy can get lefties out. He can get righties out. So I think losing him has been extremely detrimental and more detrimental than what people may realize because, you know, he's a lefty. It ain't, you know, not really flashy, but that dude gets the job done, man. So I think they're really missing that arm out there right now.
Cameron, I was going to ask you, you've been around, you played a long time in the big leagues. Does a good team ever reach the point where the injuries just simply it's like a snap of a rubber band or something where it just breaks, where you've had too many injuries? I think back last year to Tampa Bay. Mm-hmm. They were actually in front of the Orioles a good part of the season. Pace. Yeah, they were tremendous last year, and then they lost Drew Rasmussen, they lost Jeffrey Springs, and then they lost Shane McClanahan, Wander Franco for a different reason than injury. He's kind of lost forever. Does it ever reach a point where there's just too much and it overtakes your team?
Yeah, I do. I mean, you just gave a great example. And the team, you know, and it's not the Orioles. I personally, when I look at the injuries, I think the good thing is I think the Orioles have a chance to get some guys back before the year's over, right? You know, they lost those guys. The guys you named, they were lost for the season. You know, losing Grayson is tough. Westberg has swung a great bat. Losing these guys is extremely hard. But one thing I still stand on, and I'm going to continue to say, I think a great job was done at the break by going to get Zach Eflin. Going to get a guy who his MO, he might not be a 1 or 2, but that guy is going to do his best to save the bullpen. He's going to do his best to give you 5, 6, 7 if he can. You know, going to get Rogers, I think now it's looking like a very, very great move to kind of keep you right where you need to be. But fortunately enough for the Baltimore Orioles, too, when you talk about the struggles, there's another team who's been kind of up and down. And I know it was the first series loss since the Mets lost, but the Yankees, you know, fortunate for the Orioles, when the O's lose, the Yankees lose. Yep. So right now, the Yankees aren't doing anything to help themselves as well. So I think as Baltimore, you just got to keep pushing. You're going through a tough stretch right now. I think this is the most. I think this is the best, the most parity we've seen in the big leagues in a long time. Yep. Every series you watch, it's like I don't know who the favorite is right now. And then you go into Toronto, and it's like, well, they're playing a spoiler. I mean, that team's still pretty competitive on paper. Vladdy's getting hot. He's pretty much carrying that team. You know, there's a stretch where they're still going to have to go out and earn it. But I don't think they're so decimated where they can't. I think they have a nice core of guys. I like how they trust Brandon Hyde to go out and play hard for him. I don't think they're at that point, but there are a few teams that I think are coming up, you know, and knocking on that door. Teams like Atlanta Braves, they're getting real close to going. I don't know if they can overcome everything that they've had to them, but I don't think Baltimore is in that same category. So right now, I'm still picking those guys to win the division like I did at the beginning of the year. And I think they're going to figure out a way to do it. And honestly, moments like this, you'll be surprised. This is where resilience is built, right? If they can come through this stretch somehow, win some games and start to go, man, listen, we still have the pieces here. Now all of a sudden you build a little layer of resilience, and now you believe, hey, we can do it through adversity, and that's where the confidence really rises. And I still think they have some good baseball ahead of them.
Cameron, you've been so kind with your time this morning. Can we plug the Maybin mission for you?
You know what? Right now, Maybin mission, it was, it's going on for 8 years. This is the first year we're taking a little break.
Okay.
But what we do every year, we do Christmas events, community events where we sponsor a family. My wife and I came up with this years ago. We sponsor family, help them out for Christmas. I've been doing 250 to 300 kid camps for free the last 5-6 years. But me having some time to be at home, finally, I'm going to sit down. We're going to take a little break. But I appreciate you guys plugging it. We'll be back up with some events running soon. But until then, foul territory. I'm on it today. I'll be on there for Mondays. Please tune in. If you guys ever need me, I love talking ball. I'll be making sure I go find those power rankings when I get done with this.
I'll just tell you, Cameron, Glenn's got 2 kids. They're very needy.
Yeah, they are. That's a good point. Well, not different type of needy. Different type of needy. Cameron, really enjoyed this, man. Would love to do it again and truly enjoyed the show. At Cameron Mabin on Twitter is how you follow him. Thank you for spending time with us this morning, man. We really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, guys. And a little fun fact, I feel like I'm an honorary, Baltimore Oriole at heart. My grandfather played for the Orioles back in the day. Deacon Jones, not the foot player.
I was going to say.
Homer, Deacon Jones,
was Deacon Jones,
football player.
Was he the scout?
That was my grandfather.
I knew Deacon. I used to do talk radio here for 20-plus years, and I sat in my season tickets were behind home plate. I knew your grandfather very well. He was a great guy.
So just know, I'm always watching the Orioles, and I'm always rooting for him.
That's awesome, man.
That's great.
Cameron, thank you. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you, guys. Enjoy the day.
Cameron Mabin, tremendous. What a good guest he was. We had never had Cameron on before. He turned out to be awesome.
Mabin's really, a maven.
I really like him. This is legit.
He's very enthusiastic.
I do not take in a lot of sports programming content.
Right.
Like, I watch games.
I mean, you watch all of my
obviously.
Zooms,
right?
Yeah.
Like, I watched you and Eric Garfield last night.
Yeah.
Facebook.com/PressBoxSports.
Yeah.
Of course, you and Stan, or you are Stan, you and Russ and Luke.
Some days I'm not sure.
Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. If you miss it live, you can see it at YouTube.com or PressBoxOnline.com/video. YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline or PressBoxOnline.com/video.
No, but you were saying you don't watch that much, but you enjoy Maybin.
I'm telling you, that Foul Territory show, it's Eric Kratz, it's AJ Pierzynski, it's Scott Braun, who used to be on MLB Network.
Right.
I don't watch every day. I'm not going to lie or bamboozle anyone or tell everybody that I watch every day. But of any of these shows, I have watched more of that show. It is really good. It is a
now. Where do you watch that?
I watch it on YouTube.
But is it on one of the regular channels, or
I don't think we don't have a Bally Sports.
Okay.
In our market, right?
Okay.
But in the Bally markets, they air
that show.
Foul Territory on there. I watch it on YouTube. I really enjoy that show. I enjoy the conversation. There are different perspectives.
Is it brought to you by Chick-fil-A? Is it spelled FOWL?
No, it's not. Yeah, the foul line down in Houston.
Yep.
Did I see recently that there was gonna be a home run off the foul pole in Houston?
Right.
And if that happens, everybody in the stadium gets free Chick-fil-A.
Right.
But a fan reached in front of the pole and made contact with the ball, and it
never hit the pole,
and it cost everybody their Chick-fil-A, and the place lost their minds, like booed. It was like the guy was Steve Bartman. You gotta look that up and see.
Good PR would have been for them to honor the.
And they might. I don't.
Did you have to have a ticket, or everybody in the city could come in?
I don't know all the details to that, Stan. Yeah. I'm going to ask Griffin to try to, because I saw something about that pop up online recently.
Griffin should have been on top.
Yeah, really.
Of that.
That's the type of content that we should be doing here on GCR.
Yeah. All right,
that's really the way it should.
Yeah,
all right. You wanted to talk about the power rankings.
No, I was going to talk about the power rankings in just a sense that this week, Orioles 1-2, Yankees 1-2, Cleveland 0-3.
Yep.
Phillies are 3-1, Dodgers 1-2.
But they've been obviously awful before then.
Right. They were 4-11 for 15 games. Dodgers 1-2. Minnesota 6th, 1-2. Kansas City 7th, 1-2. Milwaukee swept the Atlanta Braves, who had looked like they were coming back a little bit. So Milwaukee's 3-0, Boston's 2-1, San Diego 3-0. But the top 7 teams, there's only one team, the Phillies, that are playing over 500 this week.
It is the reality. The reality is the Orioles are still tied for the most wins in all of baseball, despite the fact that they have been a 500 team now for over a month.
I mean, I thought the Phillies were the one team that was really a standout, and they did it missing. Remember, they were missing Real Muto for like 2 months. They lost Harper and Schwarber for 3, and they still were terrific.
Yep. And
now all of a sudden they've fallen on hard times.
That is the reality.
Yeah.
And that's why every time, like right now, it's a dejecting feeling in Baltimore for the Orioles to have been this mediocre for this long.
But the good news is that they're still right there.
Everyone else.
Yeah.
Everyone else is this. And for a minute, it looked like the Red Sox were going to be the team that was going to charge in. Well, they've even slowed down a bit and are still 5.5 games back. They haven't been able to take advantage of it. They got back in the race-ish, but haven't been able to close the way that it looked like they were going to be closing. Everybody is mediocre, except for the White Sox, who are just, god-awful.
They finally made a managerial change.
Okay. We talked about it yesterday, Stan. There's something kind of comical about that, right? Like,
well, it's like you got to do something,
but why now?
Because they lost 21 games.
But they won a game. Then he won a game.
Yeah, right. But they had lost 14 before.
He should have just kept losing. And he could have kept his job.
So, the crazy part, of course, that I had totally blanked on this week about the White Sox matching the Orioles, the 88 Orioles' longest American League record, of course, is
the American League record.
The 1988 Orioles. What's the thread between the 1988 Orioles and this year's White Sox?
This year's White Sox and
there's a thread.
Oh, the Sheets. The Sheetses, yeah. Larry Sheets played on the Orioles. Gavin Sheets.
Unbelievable, right?
I thought you were going to say Tony La Russa.
No, not the. That's it. It really is unbelievable.
Yeah,
man. Yeah, like really unreal.
Yeah, I was going to ask Cameron, but I know you had him on to talk about the Orioles. I was going to ask him. Because I feel bad for Pedro Grifo. He's by all counts a really solid baseball guy. He'll never get another shot at managing.
I hear you say that, but a lot of the people in Chicago have
But the point I'm making is that I've never seen in all my watching of baseball the owner step in and F up a team as much as he did by firing Rich Renteria and hiring his old friend that he always regretted letting Ken Harrelson talk him into firing, which was Tony La Russa. The guy hadn't managed in 11 years. He took a team that was on the precipice. Now, injuries clearly played a part, but La Russa effed up that team.
Oh, there's no...
and cost them a really good general manager in Rick Hahn. And the team president was Kenny Williams for a long time, who had been the GM. One move destroyed what the White Sox could have been,
I don't disagree with that. Yeah. It was awful. To your point, like, would it have worked out anyway, given, like...
you don't know the injuries. I mean, Makata turned out to be injured all the time.
And
Luis Robert and Jimenez. But they were really close. And
Tim Anderson hasn't really backed up.
He became a nothing out of it. It was almost like a Wander Franco without the sexual shit.
Was the situation poisoned first? And that it's a chicken and the egg conversation, right?
I think nobody had any respect for Tony La Russa
there's no doubt that no one had any respect for Tony La Russa.
They realized that he had been brought in.
Well, and some of the stories we heard about, like the legitimacy of him just falling asleep.
Yeah,
like we joke about that, but
he's one of the greatest managers of all time.
Of course,
and I used to love Tony.
Yeah. But he was not in a place where he should have been managing a Major League Baseball team at that point in his life. It's just not. Yeah. That was not legitimate. All right, let's grab a break. We'll come back in.
Do you want to? I have the video.
Oh, do you have the?
Yes. So I mean, it was exactly how you described it. If the whole stadium, it was at the Royals, and the whole stadium, it was a Cubs fan.
Well, are you playing it?
Yeah.
Okay. Or do you want to share it when we come back in?
We can do either. Whatever.
Let's share it when we come back.
Let's take a break.
Yep.
Come back in. We'll share the video of the thing from Houston. I want to talk about a couple of things.
It was Kansas City.
It was Kansas City.
Yes.
Sorry. Talk about a couple of things that Stan and I wrote this week over at Pressbox. We'll discuss both of those as well. Stan the Fan is here. It's a Friday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
Frederick Keys baseball is back. With 30 more home games beginning on July 2nd, the Keys are excited to welcome you back to Nimio Field at Harry Grove Stadium. We want to see you there. Countless promotions will be on display every game, with it ranging from Tap House Tuesdays to Firework Fridays and everything in between. For more information or to buy tickets, call 301-815-9939 or visit frederickkeys.com today.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. Learn more at DriveEasyMD.com.
Hagerstown, Maryland, a snapshot of American history that dates back centuries. Today, the roots of the city expand with another historical moment, the grand opening of Meredith Park, Hagerstown's new event stadium and home to the Atlantic League Flying Boxcars. Experience the energy, culture, and adventure. Plan your getaway today at America's newest and most innovative ballpark. You're welcome in Hagerstown, Maryland. Visit Hagerstown.com.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their legendary fat, delicious, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. It's crab season, so sit back and crack some crabs while watching the Birds pursue another divisional title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday night, the Costas Inn offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with two sides for under $30. So head on down to the Costas Inn today at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at CostasInn.com.
There he is, Agent 00 Chicken. Nothing can keep him from Royal Farms Chicken Palooza. Because right now, he can get a 3-piece world-famous chicken box for just $8, with a portion of each sale donated to a local charity. Plus, register to win world-famous chicken for a year. Come to Royal Farms Chicken Palooza. It's a real thriller, but it's only for a limited time. Real fresh, real fast. Royal Farms.
Escape to Ocean City, Maryland, and discover a place that just feels lighter, where every day feels like Saturday and French fries are a food group, where flip-flops are always in fashion and seafood is always in season, where the boardwalk is bustling and the beach is right outside your door, where you can rise with the tide and feel like a kid again. Ocean City, Maryland, somewhere to smile about. Book your trip at OCOcean.com.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
We're talking about it during the commercial break, and so let's just spend a moment on it because the men's basketball tournament at the Olympics usually does not provide significant memories, right? Like, the only real moment in the history of men's Olympic basketball that was significant was, of course, the Tom McMillan team and the controversy on the inbounds play when the Soviet Union beat them, and it was a travesty and a sham, and it's what it is. Otherwise, you remember the players, you remember the U.S. largely dominating, you remember the year they lost, but it just doesn't provide you moments, right? That yesterday was the best theater I have ever seen from Olympic basketball. It was as compelling as everyone is talking about it. It was exhilarating. And and you could sense it from Noah Eagle. First of all, Noah Eagle's been excellent. He's been
really terrific.
Good.
I would agree with you.
I think Dwayne Wade has been good. I think that we have there's a lot of times also where Dwayne Wade says nothing. Like where Noah Eagle describes the play and then you get back from Dwayne Wade.
Spot on.
Kevin Durant. Like you get something like that from Dwayne Wade. But he hasn't been bad. And I think he's got a few. If he's going to be part of NBC's plans once they take over the NBA,
right.
I think he'll be fine and has a cachet, unlike all of the people that ESPN throws out that do basketball that were bit players. I don't think he's been bad at all. Noah Eagle's been just phenomenal.
Beyond what I expected at this point.
God, he's been wonderful. But all that to say, you could sense in their voices, like, this isn't happening. Like, they're losing. And we all felt a lot of that during the game. I'm not going to say that I felt that way at halftime. I'm like, all right, they'll figure it out in the second half, no problem.
But at the end of the third.
Yeah, the end of the third, and really until the sequence where they got the back-to-back threes, where Durant hit they were down 11. Durant hit the three from the wing, and the foul was called, and you thought it was a 4-point play. Then they went back and looked at it and said, no, the foul was not on the shot. So instead, the U.S. got possession, and then Booker got wide open from the top of the key, drained the three, and suddenly, with one possession, they turned an 11-point game into a 5-point game. And that was the moment where I said, all right, they're going to be fine. Yeah. Like, they're going to be okay. But it being the guys that we have been watching for the last 15 years, I think is part of what made it so.
Why was Tatum not in the game yesterday?
It's really controversial. He didn't play at all in the first game. Then, Steve Kerr was apologetic about it. Like, man, the rotation just worked out.
Played.
Then they overplayed him after that. But the sense that I get is he's just. So one of the problems is Tatum has not been hitting threes. He has been shooting poorly from outside. And so other guys.
But there's no injury.
No, it's not an injury thing. He's just fallen out of the rotation because of it. But man,
it's a pretty good player.
It's a hell of a player, no question about it, right? And somebody would say this is why it's embarrassing that you were in a tight game with Serbia, dude. It's sports.
Now he's going to play him in this game,
in the gold medal game.
Yeah.
So the gold medal game is
is France any good?
France is good, but what they're really good at is junking games up.
Right.
France is going to be physical as hell, right? Mm-hmm. Like, they are going to be very, very. You know, the irony is that, Rudy Gobert has not played a ton of minutes for the French team, which is bizarre. But Wembanyama obviously is a revelation. Wembanyama is everything that we thought he was going to be.
Yeah, he's going to be an amazing player.
And they play really physically. So it will be interesting to see.
Who else do they have? Do they have any other names that we'd know?
That's a good question, Stan. French basketball roster.
I mean, is Bobby Hull playing for them?
I don't think Bobby Hull is playing for them. Evan Fournier is on there. Nick Batum, they're still on there, but that's about the list.
Okay.
Oh, Bilal Coulibaly is on. I didn't realize that.
Is he playing?
Is that the Wizard?
You would think. I mean, but again,
is that the Wizard?
Yes. The guy they took last year in the first round of the draft, 100%. French basketball Olympic stats. Let's pull it up. Let's get to the bottom of this. This is what people tune in for.
Doesn't look like Coulibaly played yesterday.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem like it's great. That doesn't seem
wow, yeah, you're right. Rudy Gobert did not play
it's
at all yesterday.
Weird,
I mean, he played
man.
5 minutes?
It's really weird the way that they have been using their players.
It's a betting scandal.
You think that's what it is?
Betting scandal.
Yeah. That's what. Yeah. Olympic basketball betting scandal.
They've been going heavy with Nick Batum, and maybe it's just these guys have been in the program.
I'm curious, what is the line on tomorrow's game?
That's a good question. Griffin will
U.S. by 5.5, 7.5.
I would assume it's more like double digits.
The fact that the U.S. was still double-digit favorites over Serbia when they were losing the entire game. I feel like it might be I think it'll be.
So you think it's 10
digits.
Points?
I feel like you can only make that number so small because then you run the risk of everybody's going to bet the U.S. and you could lose your ass on it.
And what was the line yesterday? Because I happened to be on FanDuel during the game for some reason, and I thought I saw 3.5.
For betting, if I did.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. It was trying to figure out how to. I actually did want to place a bet, and I still somehow am not tracking or something. Do you know how to do that?
There's an app that I think you can download. I think it's running on my computer right now, despite the fact that I'm not currently betting.
Yeah.
But,
they are 16-point favorites.
16
heading into Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
So,
which, again, I think could get a lot of people to bite on France, and I think what they're saying is we're good with that because they get so many U.S. bets that they need people to bet France on the. They have to have more France bets because everybody wants the U.S.
I'm going to ensure a U.S. victory.
I'm
going to bet on France.
There you go. That's my guy. Team player Stan Charles, ladies and gentlemen. That's why we love him. The final is tomorrow at 3:30.
On NBC.
Yes, that one is on NBC, correct.
And then if you miss it, do they they show it again at night? They show part of it.
I would say they would show part
of
it.
They
although
won't.
with it being, I think there is still some track and field tomorrow that they'll want to show.
Right.
So yeah, I don't think they'll show the whole game over, but I bet they show it again on USA later at night. Would be my guess.
How's the U.S. doing right now? You know, in the medal.
Oh,
I checked this morning.
They're dominating.
They're leading the medal count, but they were tied again in the gold count with China this morning at 30 apiece.
They're still
Chinese.
Yeah, right. God.
China.
Well, everything will be fixed come
First
November.
they got the virus, the China virus.
So this was from, when was this, Griffin, that this occurred?
This was
I can't believe you didn't have this for this week and the rest of baseball.
Right,
I can't believe you weren't
It was
prepared with
on
this.
July 29th, or I guess 28th.
All right, so it didn't fall. It didn't happen this week. It happened last week.
Yeah.
I can't believe you didn't have it last week.
Well,
you weren't
you're
here.
Right. I wasn't
Way
here.
to go.
Yeah, I should have called in and
yes,
made sure we covered it.
So what do you have for us?
So yeah, it was. I mean, it's ironically the Barstool article that covered is from RDT. So
really?
shout out Eric.
Love that guy.
But yeah, he's calling him Steve. Everyone's calling him Steve Bartman 2.0 because it happened to be a Cubs fan in Kansas City that did this, reaching over and right in front of the left field, right down the left field line again.
Are we watching it?
We are watching it now.
Okay. Always got to make sure that the thing.
And yeah, so if you hit the left field foul pole, everyone at the stadium in Kansas City
at Kauffman Stadium.
Correct.
Okay.
They get free Chick-fil-A. And yeah, I mean this guy. I mean it's gonna hit the foul pole. So not only did it rob a home run like from Kansas City, who was batting.
Well, what did they do? Did they go back and
I think
did they call it a ground rule double?
Yeah, that might have been what they did. I don't know. I didn't see the aftermath. I mean, the big story is that.
You're missing a lot of the details. If we're gonna put the I team on it, we need you to get us all the details.
All right. Well, then I will find out what happened. I will find out what happened.
Because I would like to know how they handled this. Both the aftermath. I want to know what they did with the call on the field.
Right.
Because it was obvious that it was going to hit the pole. I believe they have the discretion to say, no, that's a home run.
Right.
That was going to be out of the stadium. And then, two, what do they do about the Chick-fil-A situation? Because to Stan's point...
Well, it didn't hit the foul pole, so...
I understand that.
Chick-fil-A, I think, is going to happily say, well, no. I believe...
I think that's not in the spirit of... I think that's a bad call on Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, I think that would be a mistake if they wouldn't do that.
It also happened to be on a Sunday, so I think, maybe Chick-fil-A was like, nah, we don't, they definitely didn't want to have to give away Chick-fil-A on a Sunday. I'm not sure how that would have worked.
Did they have to open
I'm not sure.
Did they have to open
believe
up
it or
the
not,
store
I
on
don't
I
know.
think you just get like a gift certificate. You get like on the way out the door, they hand you a free, here's your token for a free Chick-fil-A
I think they should make
or something.
50,000 chicken sandwiches and have them on hand.
You know what? I think that would be the best way to go. Or start parachuting them in from the sky. Everybody get yours. Don't take too many. Let everybody have one.
They did, in fact, rule it a home run.
They did rule it a home run, so they got
Yes.
that part correct.
Correct.
What about the fine folks at Chick-fil-A? Did they do the right thing and provide everyone?
Let's get a corporate manager on.
Let's talk to it.
They
to
did.
somebody.
They did. They
Thank
ended up
you.
honoring
There
the
we
promo.
go.
Everyone
There
at the ballpark got their free
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A. Yes. Yes.
But only that day. So if you show up, they're closed.
So I mean, it's probably one of those.
I think it's a certificate. Like
yeah, like you
get
get a
30
week or
days.
something.
I think,
30
something
days,
like that
something
in order
like
to be able to
that.
use
Yeah.
it. It's the right thing. Chick-fil-A, good guys. Everybody involved, good guys. Except for that fan. That guy's a scumbag. Everybody else involved,
The
good
gays
guys.
can't get the chicken
Well,
sandwiches.
I think they're still allowed, Stan. I
Okay.
think whatever the political feelings are of the people that run the company, I'm pretty sure you're still allowed to go in and get your chicken sandwich.
But not transgenders.
I still think they are too, Stan. I'm pretty sure.
That's really big of
that's the
that
way-
company.
Yes, very nice to treat humans like humans.
Yeah.
What a thought.
Yeah.
What a thought. All right, let's talk real quick because I
Are we doing this week in the rest of
we
baseball?
are. We'll do it in a minute.
Okay.
But you and I first, we both wrote this week at the press box a couple different things. You wrote about the Tuesday night stuff, and we spent so much time talking about it on Wednesday that I don't really feel like rehashing it too much. Where you and I separate is only the Birch Smith thing. Like the numbers to me are overwhelming in that point. Like you have to do it. Now you have a Gregory Soto problem.
Right.
You have a problem with Gregory Soto that clearly they attempted to address by bringing Keegan Aiken back so that they would have a third lefty on the roster so that they could try to reset Gregory Soto and only use him in low leverage spots. But this is one of the eternal problems is when we constantly want to say, well, you can't use that guy, he's struggling. But you only have so many guys. Like, that's the reality of it's the issue that I had with the idea of putting Christian Pache on the roster a couple of weeks ago, right? Like, it's nice to say, well, you don't have to play him. You can only be a defensive replacement and a base runner.
That's why I don't care what the numbers show me. Spencer Horwitz is not a guy I got to bring in a lefty to face. I thought that Birch Smith, since his appearance in Baltimore, when Birch Smith is healthy, he's a reasonable guy who can be dominant. And I thought he struck out one of the two guys. He got a ground ball. Guerrero lobs a single into right field, and you couldn't get out there faster than Brandon Hyde did. And I'm going to bring in Soto? I mean, and it wasn't a second guess. It was a first guess. I didn't like the move right away. I did not like the move. Would I've predicted that he'd give up 5 runs? I would not have predicted that.
Of course not that, but, right on. And I think there are more things.
But my bigger, then you get a second chance to get back in the game in a meaningful way. There's no way in God's green earth that I'm pinch hitting Austin Slater for Jackson Holliday in that moment. There's absolutely no way. But in fairness, then I pull up Google yesterday, and I wrote a pretty scathing piece for me at this point in my life. I was really ticked off about that. And I read Google says, Hyde on thin ice after disastrous inning. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's not. And this is what people. This is the internet now. Is you take something and you just say, so and so says explosive. It's obnoxious. Yeah. It's the way that it goes. My issue, like the two things about Birch Smith that like I can't ignore. Lefties this year hit 349 against Birch Smith. For his career, lefties have an OPS of 913 against Birch Smith. It really is staggering the struggles that he has had against lefties at all times. Those numbers to me, I can defend that every time. The Soto thing uniquely, I get they have a Soto problem, but that's also they made their bed, right? Like you chose to send Keegan Aiken back down in favor of Gregory Soto. You can only use the players that you have, and if you want to be a team, and that's sort of the point that whenever this conversation comes up, I keep coming back to. If you don't like Brandon Hyde because of the matchup stuff, and I will absolutely, with you, the 9th inning or the 8th inning stuff, specifically the Mayo one, I can't defend. The numbers don't back it up.
Right.
But the matchup stuff that people don't like about Brandon Hyde, the thing I continuously say is, if you think that that's changing, if the Orioles were to switch managers, you're drunk. That is coming from the top. This regime has decided they are going to be data-driven. They're Yale-educated, Pythagorean people. That's what they decided to do here in Baltimore. And it's the majority of organizations at this point.
Yeah.
It's very rare. The people that love this are the Bruce Bochy people, right? And like that's it's extraordinarily rare. The managers now that have the freedom to overrule the data.
I'm mystified. If you feel that way about Jackson Holliday, why in the world that he's going to be pinch hit for in situations when I understood if this was back in May 1st and he's like 0 for 18, just like Mayo's in that kind of situation now. But as a rule of thumb now, that's going to be what drives whether Jackson Holliday bats or not. So if every manager brings a left-handed pitcher in the 8th inning, we're not going to see Jackson Holliday. It misses the moment. It really does. Why did you make him your number 1 pick, 1-1 in all of baseball, if he's going to be pinch hit for?
Well, to me, the Cowser one is worse because Cowser hasn't been bad against lefties this year.
I'm talking about about Holliday.
I know what you're saying. Yeah. I'm saying the Cowser one to me is worse because you have some track record this year of Colton Cowser producing against left-handers. Like, he's done it. The numbers are there.
But this guy just hit a home run the last at bat. He's hit home runs in 3 straight games. I'd say the likelihood of him at least driving, and we did score 1 run on Slater's walk, and it was a terrific at bat. I'm not taking that away from him. But, man, I just didn't get it at all.
And that's the eternal. We don't need.
Then the one batter you really are going, come on, pinch hit for this guy, is Urias.
But you don't want to put you can put Mayo. If the argument being if you put Mayo into pinch hit for Urias, then he's still a righty. He could come in. I just don't know why at this point Coby Mayo should be pinch hitting for anyone.
You mean pinch hit for? You said pinch hitting. You said,
Coby
Mayo.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't think that Mayo should be pinch hitting for anyone at the moment.
I agree with you. Right.
That's the issue that I have. I'm not thrilled about Ramon Urias being the guy at the plate, but if the option's Coby Mayo, then unfortunately at the moment, I'm probably going to have to ride with Ramon Urias. That's the way that it's going to go. So let's separate from that. What I wrote about this week was Santander and Santander's future. Yeah. And we're now living in a world where he might approach 50 home runs this season. I don't think he'll get there.
Yeah, he's going to hit 43 to 45.
Like, I think at this point it would be an upset if he didn't get to at least 43.
43, yeah. What's he got now, 34?
34.
Yeah.
If he had a
good chance for 43 to 45.
And if he replicated his June over the course, then he could hit 50 home runs this season, which would be nuts. The comparison that's been made a little bit on the internet, remember, because you and I have talked about, hey, you could do a nice safe deal with Anthony Santander.
You're not getting a safe deal any longer.
It's past that. And the comparison that's been made is Castellanos, who was 5 years, $100 million.
Right.
At a very similar age, coming off
Santander's
a big
31 now, right? Or is he? No, he's younger than that.
I think he's 29.
29.
I think so. I'll double check on that.
Yeah.
Make sure
then he probably can get 5 years.
So that becomes the question.
Yeah.
Would you go 5 years, $100 million?
I think I would. A switch hitter that defends the way he does, that throws the way he does, and is a leader on this team.
He'll be 30 in October, for the record.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I would go 5 years for him. I would try to get 4, and he might stay here for 4 if the dollars are right.
And by the way, I did include that in the comments. Some of this is I hope that the easiest.
And he
thing
came
in the
out
world
and
is
said yesterday
when he was on with me a couple weeks ago, he said he wanted to stay in Baltimore.
Right.
Like I badly believe that he wants to be here.
Yeah.
I also don't know enough about his agency to know where that line is between those two things and them saying, hey, you can say whatever you want to say, but we're going out and getting the most money that we can get. Ideally, this is something much like when they announced J.J. Hardy going into the playoffs is the comparison that I would make. The electricity that was felt about that. And that wasn't even a big, money dollar-wise signing, but it was just the feeling, the vibe that you had around this, the lift that comes from something like that. If they could get a deal done with Anthony Santander as this sort of malaise has hit a little bit recently, that's the type of thing to me that could give an emotional injection to this baseball team.
I would agree with you.
And if that costs 5 years and $100 million, if you have said we have X amount of dollars to spend, and you believe you've got a chance to sign Gunnar Henderson, then I'll live with, hey, ultimately at the end we chose we were going to sign Gunnar Henderson and we couldn't sign Anthony Santander because of that.
Right.
But one, I don't know why it would have to be one or the other, because $20 million for Anthony Santander shouldn't be make or break about your ability to spend money on something else.
Right.
And then two, I'm so skeptical about the idea that you really have the chance to sign Gunnar Henderson because of the Boris part of the equation, that it feels like this is, look, man, we want to do the other things. It's really difficult. Let's throw this fan base a bone, and there's a guy that they love that we are convinced is definitively part of the story for us, and let's try to do something in order to plant the flag. I think it would go a long way.
I would agree.
Well, look at that. Look at you and I agreeing. What a day today.
Well, I'm a Santander guy.
I mean, there's so much to like about that guy. Will go down as one of the great Rule 5 picks, obviously, in baseball history. Yeah. When we come back in this week in the rest of baseball, Griffin will guide us through everything else that happens still to come this hour. Our buddy Ben Verlander will join us as well. That's on the way.
Swinging bats.
Swinging bats. Let's not tell him that, but it's a Friday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Experience the thrill of the Mars Maryland 5-Star at Fair Hill, presented by Brown Advisory, coming October 17th to the 20th. See the world's best equestrians compete in the sport of eventing, the ultimate test of horse and rider. Enjoy a weekend festival featuring locally sourced food at the Fresh Food Fest, a beer, wine, and spirits showcase, shopping, and fun for all ages. Check out the Maryland Corgi Cup, interactive kids corner, and more. It's the place to be in October. Visit maryland5star.us for tickets.
Treat yourself and taste the Baltimore tradition that is the legendary Costas Inn. Hey, it's Stan the Fan Charles. For over 50 years, the Costas Inn has been a Baltimore original, dishing out their legendary fat, delicious, award-winning crab cakes and steamed crabs. It's crab season, so sit back and crack some crabs while watching the Birds pursue another divisional title on Costas' 15 TVs. On Monday night, the Costas Inn offers their half-pound jumbo lump crab cake with 2 sides for under $30. So head on down to the Costas Inn today at 4100 North Point Boulevard or visit them at costasinn.com.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
There he is, Agent 00 Chicken. Nothing can keep him from Royal Farms Chicken Palooza. Because right now, he can get a 3-piece world-famous chicken box for just $8 with a portion of each sale donated to a local charity. Plus, register to win world-famous chicken for a year. Come to Royal Farms Chicken Palooza. It's a real thriller, but it's only for a limited time. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now, and on the cover, Glenn Clark and Stan the Fan Charles sit down for a sports conversation with Maryland Governor Wes Moore, discussing the Orioles and Ravens stadium leases, the future of horse racing in Maryland, and how his own football career at Johns Hopkins shaped him as a leader. This is also our annual travel issue with information about sports tourism opportunities in Maryland for your family to take advantage of throughout the summer. Press Box is available for free at over 500 locations throughout the region, including 60 Royal Farm stores. Or you can read the entire issue at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
Hey, safe home, Chichi Rodriguez. A lot of people know that for years I did a bit. This dated back to whenever I started working with Forrester, so that would have been 2008, where whenever we would do a preview of a golf tournament, I would say, Drew, you going to ask me for my pick? And he'd say, yeah, go ahead. And I would say, Chichi Rodriguez. And then it went from there, and we ran it for a long time. Truth be told.
That's why that show was such a success, the sense of humor.
Right. Well, part of it was me saying I didn't care about the golf. Like, that is part of it. But also, and this is the part that I never really told people, when I was a kid, my grandfather loved watching golf, like loved it. And whenever I would spend a Saturday or Sunday afternoon at my grandparents' house, my grandfather would be napping and watching the golf. And by the way, every time I went to try to flip it over to like a college football game, he knew.
Grab it.
He'd
right.
wake up immediately and be like, "Why? I'm watching that." But I didn't care for golf, but I loved when he would be watching something with Chichi Rodriguez, because Chichi Rodriguez was
he did the famous sword thing.
The sword thing. He was a showman.
He was a showman. Yeah.
His antics were awesome, and like you would be inclined to watch the senior golf because of Chichi Rodriguez. I loved that, and I was all in. So it was the one thing in golf that I cared about. So the truth was that bit was a dumb bit, but it was actually in a way me kind of trying to give a nod to my grandfather and growing up and the bond that I shared with him. Yeah. And I love that. So it was a bummer when I found out Chichi Rodriguez.
Two of my favorite sports shows of all time were Championship Bowling and Shell's Wonderful World of Golf, which was an absolutely amazing show. They go all over the world and have two golfers play one another. And whenever Chichi Rodriguez was on that, I
was 100% one of the shows that my grandfather loved watching, and I was enamored as a kid with this showman, this entertainer that was playing. I thought that was what golf was. It very much disappointed me when I found out that there weren't other guys that did that. It was just him. And
you know who was similar for a while, actually at a higher level, was Lee Trevino. Was a tremendous showman too.
I think that sport has missed a lot of that over the years. So, safe home Chichi Rodriguez, an absolute legend who passed away yesterday. All right, it is time. It's Friday. Let's find out what else has been happening in baseball.
This week
in the rest of
baseball.
This week in the rest of baseball is brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. It is always the best place to watch all of the big events. Final weekend in Paris, big UFC fight next weekend. Can watch it inside Sports and Social with a giant 100-foot media wall, all the great food and drink specials, and you're just steps away from, of course, the FanDuel Sportsbook, where you can go get your bets in. On top of that, Live Casino Rewards members have the opportunity to earn discounts on cash and credit purchases at the casino. Join the Live Casino Rewards Club online or in person at Live today. See complete details, livecasinohotel.com.
All right, we did mention, obviously, Pedro Grifol out as the White Sox manager.
Why? What happened?
Well, they weren't winning baseball games.
I saw they won one.
No, they weren't.
Well, they did.
Well,
they definitively won a baseball game. That happened.
You know, the good news about the Orioles, they have 3 more games against the Chicago White Sox.
That's good news.
That is very good
Well,
news.
now, I don't know. Now that
now
Grady
they'll probably go on
Which is kind of
roll
cool.
now.
I don't know. Grady Sizemore getting the...
Why?
I don't know. Because Grady Sizemore. He was like, I mean, he was. I guess he was never like that great of a player, but
he was actually a great player. He got a raft of major injuries.
I don't know if I'd ever be comfortable saying he was a really good player.
I can't remember anything about it. I just remember him like
he stole 35 bases. He was capable of hitting 25 homers. Played a great center field.
I feel like this is you having the moment that all adults have, where like a player that you watched is now, and you're like,
Grady Sizemore.
I know him.
Like,
that's not just some, and we all go through that. Like we're like, wait, that guy? I watched that guy.
Yeah.
It happens to me all the time, where now I realize that like somebody that I cared about deeply as a player gets a job. I'm like, wow, that's got to be a big deal to all the kids that they're coaching, that like that's their coach, and all these kids are like, yeah, we have no idea who you are. Like, no clue.
Well, so I was with my brother yesterday, and so like when I saw this report, I was like, oh, Grady Sizemore, the interim manager of the White Sox. We're both like, oh, that's so cool.
He had back-to-back seasons in 2005 and 6, where in 2005, remember he was playing for a terrific Indian team at that time. 111 runs scored, 185 hits, 37 doubles, 11 triples, 22 homers, 81 runs batted in, 22 steals, 10 stolen bases. On base 343, OPS 832. The next year, 162 games, 134 runs scored, 53 doubles, 11 triples, 28 homers, 76 runs batted in, 22 steals again, 290 average, 375 on base percentage, and a 907 OPS. He was on his way to being a great player.
So then he missed. Yeah, so then he missed 2, like in 2012 and 2013. Yeah, and then he was never the same. But I didn't mean to go into that much into Grady Sizemore. Because I wanted
Grady Sizemore.
Yeah. Because of course Jay Kuda is he's Chicago based, so he always has stuff whenever the White Sox or Cubs or whoever does something. Only 2 managers in baseball history have at least 200 games managed for the same team and a winning percentage under 333.
Only 2 managers in baseball history
have 200 games managed with one team.
Have 200 games managed with one team
and a winning percentage under 333. You're never gonna guess. I mean, you're never gonna guess the other guy.
Joe Adcock.
No, it's Pedro Grifol and a World War II dentist, Dr. James Prothero, who was a licensed dentist and managed the Phillies during World War II.
Wow,
and was terrible.
Stan, you remember that?
It was terrible.
You remember Dr.
I was his bench coach.
Yeah, he was the original Dr. J, right? That was the.
So unfortunately for Pedro Grifol, just
they called him Dr. P.
Dr. P. Mix it up a little bit.
Matt Shaw, he's tearing it up for.
Do we know how Pedro Grifol is as a dentist? Do we have any information?
Do we want to know if he's anything like a manager?
Who was the other one though? You said there were three.
Two. Just two.
Oh,
Pedro Grifol and Dr. James Prothero.
Okay.
Managed 1940s Phillies.
Sure.
Matt Shaw is tearing it up with the Cubs. He was called up to AAA with the Iowa Cubs earlier this week. Former Terp Matt Shaw. He was fantastic when in the month or so that he played after getting drafted last year and has already made it up to AAA. So just to keep an eye on him as potentially could get some time with the Cubs. I mean, just because they haven't been all that great and are not going to be.
Yeah, they were good obviously to start the season, and then it just.
Well, they're like one of those teams that like. Should have been like they brought back Bellinger, Dansby Swanson.
They've got some stuff going on here. I did not realize Dansby Swanson was married to Mallory Pugh.
You didn't know?
I had no
Who's
idea.
Mallory Pugh, an actress?
No, women's soccer.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, scored the goal the other day. Like I did not realize.
Does she stink, Madeline Pugh?
But
Pugh.
Pugh. It's not. She doesn't go by Pugh anymore.
Oh, she's Madeline Shaw.
No, Swanson.
Swanson. I meant Swanson.
Matt Shaw might swoop in. Yeah. He's playing better than Dansby Swanson right now. So.
But not at the major league level.
Not at the major league level. Glenn and I talked about it. Stan, did you see Framber Valdez took a no hitter through 8 2/3?
Yes.
And then Corey Seager, of course, broke it
home
up
run
with a 2-run home run. Not the first time he's done this, with a no hitter through 8 2/3. And then it hits a home run to break it up. He did it back in 2016 against Matt Moore. So Corey Seager just breaks up no-nos. If you're getting no hit, you want to have Corey Seager on your team. Is what I thought.
Was Matt Moore with the Giants?
With the Giants.
I would say more in general, you'd like to have Corey Seager on your team.
That's also true.
I don't think you would just need to hold him. Imagine being like,
we're getting no hit.
You guys aren't playing Seager today. Why not? Well, we got to hold him so he can pinch hit if we happen to be getting no hit in the 9th inning. What? Yeah. Can't put him out there until then. What if he's not due up that inning? Then we're screwed. I don't think they're going to go.
Billy.
By the way, Mallory Pugh didn't score the goal. She assisted the goal to Sophia Smith in extra time that got him to the final.
Billy Bean passed away earlier.
Yeah, not the Oakland.
Don't make that
Billy
mistake.
Bean. Yeah, he think the Mad Dog Russo made that mistake.
He did, in fact, make that mistake.
Not that Billy Bean, but Billy Bean who, among other things, became famous because he came out and became
an ambassador,
a real significant ambassador to
inclusion.
Yes,
basically in Major League Baseball. So yes, rest in peace, Billy Bean. Also, over the weekend, Ben Joyce of the Angels, hard-throwing reliever, he hit 105 a couple times and recorded on Sunday night. Recorded the fastest strikeout pitch in the pitch tracking era of 104.7. And it was swing and miss. I mean, it's impossible. It's like, how do you hit that?
That is nuts.
It's possible Aroldis Chapman saw this and decided to channel his old hard throwing
Finch
style.
Could throw the ball that hard though, right?
Sid Finch was
could,
unbelievable.
Really? Yeah, right.
It's legendary.
Wednesday night versus the Padres, Aroldis hit 105 a couple times, and then to end the inning, he struck out Manny Machado looking.
You know, all I can hear when you're saying these things is like, all right, well, they're not going to have arms next week. Like, all I can hear anymore, because that's all we think about. I can't even celebrate anything that a pitcher does, because all I'm hearing is, oh, yeah, they're not going to have an elbow. Like, there's just, that's where we are.
So did he best Ben Joyce's?
No, he ended up. So he struck out Manny with another 104.7 pitch. Struck out Manny looking. I just played the clip.
He just matched
it. He matched it. And I just played the clip. It was really cool because he paints the inside corner of the strike zone, and then Manny just looks back and just smiles at him, and Aroldis starts smiling at him too. Like he's like, how am I supposed to hit that?
What in the world?
That game also ended up being like kind of a low-key game of the year. The Padres ended up winning 9-8 in extras in Pittsburgh.
That was a wild game.
It was. The Padres ended up sweeping the Pirates. I'll get back to that. But it was also the Jackson Merrill game. Jackson Merrill was unbelievable. He had like 4 hits, hit 2 home runs, hit like a home run in the first inning. And then in the top of the 9th, they were at Pittsburgh. In the top of the 9th, with one out. They were down by a run, and he hit a solo home run dead center, and a couple home runs dead center. Jackson Merrill had a great week in Pittsburgh, and the Padres have moved into the top spot of the NL playoffs as well. They're quite on the run, and then Cameron Mabin alluded to
top
it.
Spot in the
NL wild card.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Did I say West?
Yeah, he's in the playoffs.
Oh.
I was like, they're not the 1 seed. They're
the
not
wild card, the NL top wild card right now in the National League. And Cameron Mabin alluded to it. The Braves. Are we worried about the Braves, who obviously have slid? They are out of. If the playoffs started today, they would be out of the National League playoffs.
The Diamondbacks
right
are back in. Right?
Diamondbacks are back in, and the Mets, I think.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yes, the
yeah.
Mets. So they're half game behind the net.
Diamondbacks just got back Eduardo Rodriguez.
Yep. And that's because the Diamondbacks swept the Guardians. So those are the two teams. Like, are we worried about them? Obviously, the Braves are really struggling. Matt Olson and Austin Riley have been like, okay, they haven't been great this season. Whit Merrifield, who I think they claimed off waivers, has done nothing. Jorge Soler was their, I guess, big trade acquisition, hasn't done anything. Charlie Morton's been terrible. I have to mention him because he's on my fantasy team.
Been terrible.
So
he's been off.
He's been very bad. Obviously, Strider and Acuna are not coming back. But also in Braves news, the Bristol, they're doing the Speedway.
Yeah, that's nuts. That's nuts.
Yes.
Who are they playing?
The Reds.
It seemed odd. I don't know
So
how
you think
far
yeah.
East Tennessee is from
Cincinnati and Atlanta. Well,
I just don't know. Right?
So it'll be on August 2nd, a Saturday next summer.
So they did the football game there a few years back between Virginia Tech and Tennessee, and it was a spectacle to behold, right? Like, holy crap, look at how many people are in this facility to watch a football game. But everybody said that, like, you really couldn't see the field. Like, you were there to be a part of the spectacle and nothing else. I don't know how they set this up for baseball because Bristol worked out perfectly. For those that aren't NASCAR people, Bristol was one of the smaller tracks. So because of it actually set up that the football field could kind of be in the middle, and it was parallel. It made some sense. I don't know what they're going to do for baseball and if they're going to try to use the whole thing. And
yeah, it looks like obviously they can't. Like so here's like a rendering. I don't know how well you can see it.
Yeah, I can't see that.
But it looks like it looks like they're gonna use like half the infield. I guess that's what you call it at the Speedway, the half the infield.
Speaking of racing, real quick, I know we're in this week in the rest of baseball. Is Marty Robertson a big racing guy? I had this gigantic truck speed by me on 695. And it was Marty Robertson.
Anything about
Marty Robertson Racing?
I've never heard that name in my life. It might be.
I thought I had heard it.
I've never heard that name.
Marty Robertson, Alabama International.
I'm looking at the rendering for this. Yeah, like, my God, imagine sitting in right field for this game. Imagine sitting. You're there for the spectacle. I get that, and there are enough people that will go for a spectacle that they'll have.
And I guess that's why you pick these teams. Like, Acuna will be back next year. Ellie De La Cruz.
The Braves make sense to me as the team to be picked. Okay, you're saying so. De La Cruz is just such a stud. That's
and the Reds are still.
I don't know geography well. It might very well be because Chattanooga is Cincinnati's minor league, right? Isn't Chattanooga Cincinnati affiliate?
The Lookouts.
I think so.
Yeah, so it might be that there are like Reds fans in Tennessee that would travel over for it. It seems strange to me that it's the Reds, but yeah, De La Cruz factor is real.
I think Tennessee and Kentucky, a lot of people from those states go to Reds games.
Let's get the answer. Distance from Bristol, Tennessee to Cincinnati. Distance from
I guess it would be
Bristol, Tennessee,
how well I know
200 miles.
Cincinnati. The answer is, your guess is?
200.
200.
I'll go less, 150.
Stan is the winner, 307.
Oh, wow. Okay.
307 is the correct answer.
But I think, radio-wise, I think you're right that Chattanooga is.
Yeah. So there you go. There you go. Is that it?
And then, so that we did mention the D-backs, they swept the Guardians. So the Guardians have lost 5 in a row now. Obviously, they lost the last 2 to the Orioles, 3 in a row to the D-backs this week. And then it is down to a 3.5-game lead over the Twins right now, who they are at Minnesota this weekend.
How far is Kansas City? 6.5?
Kansas City is they're close. I mean, they're from first in the Central. They are 4 back. So Minnesota 3.5 back. Kansas City
turning into quite a race.
Yeah. Kansas City has just made
White Sox haven't been eliminated.
Not yet.
No,
not yet.
Yes, they have.
Did I see the math that like I
they're not going to win 40
by the way,
games.
I'm obsessed with Ozzie Guillen. I don't know how much of the internet because the White Sox don't have their own network.
Right.
They're still on NBC Sports Chicago.
And he's on that.
They can just say whatever they want to say.
Right.
And he goes in.
He's fantastic.
Like, goes in. The other night, it was actually a little dark. He was like, I got to be honest, man. I'm in a bad place. Like, I've been drinking. Nobody I'm angry. Like, they chose Pedro Grifol over me.
Oh, he really went there?
Yes. Oh, I had I had it saved, and I just unsaved
like,
it.
He just goes.
That's really a great way to get rehired again.
Well, I think he's given up on that hope at this point. I think that part. He's given up.
He's
hope,
nuts. He's absolutely
Guillen,
nuts.
oh, man, but he's so good on TV. Yeah. He is so good on TV. It's crazy how good he is.
Yeah. Guardians also start a stretch of 22 games in 22 days, including 3 doubleheaders in that stretch as well.
You know who's pitching today? Alex Cobb.
Pitching
one of the 2
Cleveland
games
debut.
That was when he got traded. I said, wow, this is breaking news. Alex Cobb is still pitching. Who knew?
Actually pitched very well in his rehab at AAA.
Who knows? Maybe
we'll look back and that'll be the regrettable move.
This will be the moment where they say, yeah, they lost 5 in a row, but Alex Cobb
turned it all around.
The stopper.
They're playing a doubleheader today.
Correct.
When
yeah,
the
doubleheader
when
today.
the Orioles
4 in Minnesota. 4
Twins,
in Minnesota.
yeah.
Like if you had asked me last Friday and you had said who's the best team in baseball, I would have said Cleveland. Having watched them those last 2 games, I would have said they're the best team in baseball.
Right.
And that's why I think we were also encouraged on Monday. We were like, dude, the Guardians look like the best team in baseball, and the Orioles bounced back and won those 2 games and scored runs. And, like, everything's fixed now. Obviously not the case. Yeah. But, man, I was so convinced that the Guardians were on their way. All right, we can't take a break, but, Griffin, let's do this because we did not obviously have a man of the match today. Unfortunately, the board stays empty. However, when we do man of the match, it is brought to you by, that's right, the Maryland 5-star. It is not only a world-class equestrian event, but it is just an amazing destination for celebrating the fall here in the state of Maryland. It is, of course, a major sporting event, but on top of that, it is also a fall festival. Great shopping, the Corgi Cup, incredible selfie stations all over the place. You got to get out to Fair Hill. Go to Maryland5star.us. That's with the number 5, Maryland5star.us to get your tickets October 17th through 20th for the Maryland 5-Star up at Fair Hill in Cecil County. And we will look forward to seeing you there for the Maryland 5-Star. All right, we have not talked at all. The Ravens play a preseason game tonight, so now let's do our breakdown of the Ravens preseason game tonight in 3, 2, 1...
So the Fringe Ravens, my friend Sean and I, we always do our Fringe Ravens draft. So I'll have that out on Twitter later today. Don't worry. So those will be the 20 guys that you should be watching.
Who are we playing? The Eagles.
The Eagles tonight.
It's a battle of the birds.
I heard that, by the way, Griffin, that you were offered tickets and you declined, which is so unlike you.
It is. Well, I mean, we're kind of dealing with a.
Is that what it is? I thought you were a preseason football
and
guy.
my brother's in town too, and he doesn't necessarily want to go. So that was,
You didn't say, hey, I make the calls around here. I called. This is how bad it is with preseason football. I called home, called my 9-year-old and said, hey, bud,
I got a ticket.
Do you want to go tomorrow night? I can get his tickets. He said verbatim, Lamar's not playing. I said, no. He said, I'd rather watch the Orioles game. I said, all right, pal, I guess we're staying home and watching the Orioles game tomorrow night. In fact, he asked it this way. He said, if we go, can I watch the Orioles game on your phone? And I said, I mean, I guess, but like.
That's kind of defeats the purpose.
Why go if we're just going to watch the Orioles game on the phone? Then he said, okay, then I don't want to go. It's like, wow, if you can't get my 9-year-old to go, you're in trouble. It is a bad place to be if you can't get the 9-year-old to go to preseason.
Now, I don't know what he's won or lost or anything, but there is a Marty Robertson racing.
I'm not saying he isn't real. Just
page
not a.
That doesn't mean he's.
I knew nothing about him. Nothing at all. All right. Always appreciate our next guest taking time for us. He is a very, very busy man. You, of course, watch him on Flippin' Bats. You see him on Fox Sports. He is our buddy Ben Verlander, and he's back with us now here on GCR. Ben, it's Glenn. Stan the Fan Charles is in studio with me today. Thank you so much for taking a couple of minutes for us this morning.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Ben, I'm going to ask something. Stan and I were talking about it a little bit earlier on in the show. The sheer totality of the injuries that the Orioles have dealt with pitching-wise, like dating back to Felix Bautista last year, but then obviously adding in Bradish, Means, now Wells, Grayson in the bullpen, Danny Coulomb, and now on top of all that, Jacob Webb, who had been one of their more reliable relievers. Does there ever come a point where it's just not possible to overcome this number of pitching injuries specifically?
Yeah, it definitely gets to a point. And hopefully they haven't reached that point. But at a certain point, if thing after thing happens, there's not but so much you can do. And you try and address it at the trade deadline. I felt like they did a good job of doing that, going to get a couple of starters, knowing that was a need. They addressed the bullpen, so they really tried to take the trade deadline and just readjust the entire look of who they would have taken the mound. And I do think it helps. I do think it's going to be important for them and useful come playoff time, but you can't sustain much more of it. The goal is to get into the playoffs. I absolutely, that's going to happen. And then from there, it's about winning a World Series and having some pitchers out there that can do that. And I really do like what they added in the bullpen. I think they gave up a lot to get what they did in the starting rotation. But come playoff time, when those guys are taking the mound and Zach Eflin's taking the ball in a big game in the playoffs, nobody's going to be thinking about who was giving up to do it. If he can produce out there, then that's all that'll matter.
Ben, in 2022, the Orioles were real close to they were sort of on the fringes of a postseason spot. And about August 1st, they were about ready to bring up Grayson Rodriguez then, and he suffered a tear of the lat, teres major lat or something like that. This injury isn't as bad as that, but given the history, what is the likelihood that we're going to see him back this year?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. And it's always tricky with pitcher arm injuries. And as you mentioned, it doesn't appear to be as bad as – it's not as bad as it was originally, the original injury. This is a strain. So I do think he'll be able to come back at some point, and obviously that's the hope for everybody involved. The Orioles need him. They desperately need him to be back in that rotation come playoff time. But I feel like, given what I know and what I've heard, I would imagine I don't imagine him being out for the year. I do think this is something that he could potentially come back from pretty quickly. So I would be optimistic that he's back in the rotation within. I'm not going to put a timeline on it. I'm not a doctor. I have no idea. But
did you sleep at a Holiday Inn Express last? Did you sleep at a Holiday Inn Express?
But I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express, and I would be shocked if he wasn't back before. At some point in September, I would think, maybe even into this month.
Glenn and I, we saw Tampa play a lot, so we know about Scott Eflin. What can you tell us about Zach Eflin? Zach Eflin. What can you tell us about Trevor Rogers that we don't know?
Yeah, I think both of these guys, when it comes to the trade deadline, it's tough to look at numbers, if you will. And if you look at the Rogers numbers, they're not going to jump off the page at you. He hasn't had a great year, and I know a lot was given up to get him, specifically with Norby a part of that trade, and it was a lot to give up. But he's a younger left-handed pitcher, has good stuff, and the hope is that an organization that has good people all the way throughout and are able to help guys is able to turn a guy like him into a really good pitcher. And the Orioles organization has shown before that they can take pitchers and really bring out the best in them. And I think Trevor Rogers could be another example of that. I know his first start with the Orioles was not good, but his last start was good. So I did like that pickup for them. I like him, the pickup specifically. I do think they gave up a lot to get him. I love the Zach Eflin move. I think Zach Eflin has been one of the more underrated pitchers in the game of baseball over the last couple of years. I know last year he had around a 3.5 ERA and, upwards of 15 wins. So I know he was really good. He's been good again this year. He's going to be huge for them. He's going to be huge for them come playoff time. I said it last year. I don't think the Orioles were ready to win the World Series just based on the pitching that they had going into October. Obviously, the bats underperformed come October, but that's a bit to be expected with a young core that had never been there. But I don't think the pitching was there. I think you had a guy like Grayson and Bradish that are ready to pitch in the playoffs, but they needed more. So now you can go into into October with a rotation of Corbin Burns. Hopefully Grayson Rodriguez is good to go. Zach Eflin, and next thing you know, you have 3 studs that you can throw out there at anybody any given night come playoff time, and that's the recipe. And I think the Orioles put themselves in a really good position. They just need to stay healthy.
He is, of course, Ben Verlander, and he's with us here on GCR. Ben, you mentioned that you like what they did in the bullpen, and it's tough at the moment because the Soto thing has been a disaster so far for the Orioles. Dominguez is interesting, and it kind of goes to another conversation that we've been having this morning. It looks like by the fact that they didn't go out and get someone who is a proven closer, the Orioles are saying, hey, we intend to give Craig Kimbrell another chance. Now, when that happens, we don't know. They haven't had a lot of closing opportunities of late, and they had been using him in lower leverage spots again, seemingly try to reset him. There are people, and we were talking to Cameron Mabin earlier, who was high on the idea of Dominguez being given the shot. Where are you as far as should they be trying to solve for Craig Kimbrell still as being their closer? Should they be committing to giving maybe Sir Anthony Dominguez the opportunity to win the job between now and the end of the regular season?
Yeah, I to be honest with you, I don't think it matters from here through September. I think it's okay. Let's figure out who's going to get hot, and when it gets to October, you know what? We're not going to have a certified closer role. Whoever gets hot and shows that they're going to go out there and have nasty stuff come October, that's the guy that in a high leverage situation in the 9th inning we're going to run out there. And I do think a lot of the arms that they have, especially the ones they added in Soto and Dominguez, they have nasty stuff, and that's what plays in October. And Sir Anthony Dominguez has fantastic postseason numbers. I think Soto has the stuff to get outs in the postseason, and somebody's going to show. It's just a different ball game, and people rise to the occasion at times, and sometimes people do the opposite. So it's just about getting to October, using those guys right now in whatever way possible, trying to reset Kimbrell, using Dominguez in that 9th inning, using Soto in that 9th inning, looking who's comfortable. I know saying use Soto in that 9th inning scares Orioles
right
fans
now,
half to death right now.
We don't like the thought of Soto in the 6th inning right now.
Yeah, exactly. But using them and figuring out who likes that situation, and then really come October, it's going to be a who's hot and who's not situation. And you could potentially be running Kimbrell out there in the 9th. You could be running Dominguez out there. You could be running anybody out there. Whoever steps up in that moment come October. And that's why I love these arms, because they have the stuff to get outs in the postseason. And a lot of these guys have shown when the lights are the brightest, their stuff is at its best, and they're going to go out there and get out. Bullpen guys are crazy. They're nuts. And sometimes they just need a crazy crowd and an environment to really get them going.
It's an interesting way of looking at it. It's such an interesting concept, Ben, because I feel like that's what that is the new era way of thinking is you don't have to have anybody can get 3 outs. You don't have to have a closer. But every time I talk to baseball players, it feels like for their psyche, for their mentality, whatever it is, the comfort of just knowing, hey, that's the guy. We'll go to him. The game's only 8 innings long. We got it just still feels like, and I don't know how to measure it analytically, but there is still some inherent value to that.
I agree completely, but nobody's earned it.
That's fair.
If you were to go into October right now and you're the Cleveland Guardians and you say, all right, somebody's going to have to earn the 9th inning, Emmanuel Clase is going to be like, what are you talking about? And there's a handful of teams, the Astros with Josh Hader, and, there's a handful of closers that have earned that spot, and that is their spot. And when they come in the ninth inning, the music's going to be playing, the lights are going to be going, and they've earned their ninth inning spot. Nobody's earned that with the Orioles. I mean, at times this year, obviously Kimbrel was an all-star. At times this year, he's been good, but nobody right now, you can say a closer needs that for the mental side of things and to really get comfortable. Well, nobody's earned that. So somebody go out there and take it, and then come October, you can know the ninth inning is yours. But until that time comes, until somebody earns it, it ain't yours, and you have no reason to feel comfortable. Your job's on the line. Go out and earn it.
It's fair.
Ben, you're more like a national figure talking sports and observing sports. I'm just curious. We here in Baltimore had a big debate the other night after manager Brandon Hyde pinch hit for Jackson Holliday with Austin Slater. I mean, I'm not comparing Jackson Holliday to Ted Williams, but I remember when Carroll Hardy pinch hit for him. What were your thoughts on that move there?
Man, I just think when it comes to a guy like Jackson Holliday, or it comes to a young talent, I will forever remember, and my brother says this often, he credits a lot of his career and the way he's been able to pitch to Jim Leyland with the Tigers, because there would be times where it'd be late in a game, a tricky situation. Justin would have worked himself into a tough spot, and Jim Leyland would let him go through that experience. He would let him try and get out of it. He would let him struggle out on the mound. He would let him learn from different situations. And I often feel that way with young prospects of what are you doing, really? What are you showing him by pinch hitting? And I don't think if he goes up, the odds say whenever you go up to the plate, you're not going to get a hit, right? So if he goes up to the plate and it doesn't work out, there's a lot more gain there from valuable experience and going up with that heartbeat going a little bit, and going up with the game on the line and going up in a clutch situation and being able to take that and learn from that later, maybe come October, say. So I thought it was the wrong decision. Who am I to second guess that? But if, in my opinion, I would have loved to see the young guy go be able to get that at bat, gain that experience, and all he's done since he's been up again is prove that he is a guy, and he is a guy that you want to have on your roster in October. So why are we not allowing him to have that at bat? I thought it was the wrong decision, but.
Very excellent.
No, I absolutely appreciate the value of this, especially talking about what your brother learned from being in those spots. I think that's really.
I think that's something I didn't even address in my column. It's invaluable. You're right,
Ben. If I could, one more for you. We are really what Anthony Santander has been doing this season for the Baltimore Orioles is nuts, and we knew he was good, obviously, but like we go back to the beginning of the year. You know, Stan and I were having these conversations like, hey, maybe they could get him on a 3-year, $45 million deal to keep him around. Well, that's out the window. He's going to go past 40 home runs this season. There's not an impossible chance that he could get closer to 50 this year. He's going to be 30 years old in October, and the Orioles have a lot of bat prospects still. Like Heston Kjerstad doesn't have anywhere to play at the major league level right now. They're trying to force Kobe Mayo as a third baseman. He's obviously not a third baseman in the major leagues, but I am really enamored with the idea of Anthony Santander is too valuable to this team, and I would really like to see that continue moving forward, and it might cost them Nick Castellanos got 5 years, $100 million at a similar place in his career. Would it be worth that type of money to keep Anthony Santander around in Baltimore?
Yeah, I think so. When you look at players across the league, I would definitely put him in the category of being one of the more underrated players in the game the last couple of years. I mean, he hit, almost 30 last year, had an OPS right at 800. This year he's pushing towards 40, and OPS of around 850 last time I checked. And, I do think whenever you talk about the Orioles, it's this interesting conversation of there are so many prospects and everybody needs a spot. Well, at some point, those prospects a lot of them have shown, man, we have a guy here. And I do think it's important to add veterans around and older guys that have been around, that have done it. And so I would love to see Santander get a contract and maybe look to I don't know. Maybe trade some of those guys for another big time arm or somebody that you can bring in for a couple of years and go win a World Series, because I don't know, realistically, are every prospect that we're talking about for the Orioles, are you going to be able to sign all of them to a long-term deal? I mean, if you're being realistic about it, probably not. If all of them work out as you hope they do. Yep. So while they're big names, while they're top prospects, and you have a veteran in the big leagues that's going to hit over 40 homers, go cash in on some of them. Get an elite starting pitcher or an elite bat for a couple of years, and go win a World Series. That's the goal. Start to win World Series, and that starts to feel like a failure if it doesn't happen this year. This is your window. Last year was the taste of the playoffs. Now you got to go win, or people are going to start feeling like the year was a letdown, and this feels like that first year, and next year is important as well. And I think you need a guy like Santander, if you start bringing those prospects up, and you're working them in, next thing you know, you're hoping they produce the next year. And the next year, the next thing you know, we're 3-4 years down the road, and some of those guys have already left. Some of them are on the last, are you going to pay them or not? So I think you got to start winning right now, and he's a big part of it.
We agree. We agree wholeheartedly. At Ben Verlander, of course, is how you follow him, flipping bats. What else can we plug for you, Ben?
No, that's it. Just really working hard on my show right now, Flipping Bats with Ben Verlander. Have John Smoltz on every single week, which is so cool to have. I believe he actually has
the Orioles game.
I believe he has the Orioles Rays this weekend and with down there. So have him on every week, and that's just so cool, and just appreciate you guys plugging it.
Ben, you should have named the show Swinging Bats.
Yeah, Stan was struggling with the name. He was trying to plug it earlier, was struggling. So we're sticking. We know it's Flipping Bats.
It's Flipping
That's
Bats.
The podcast. Ben, appreciate you, man. Thanks for doing this.
Of course, appreciate you guys for having me.
Thanks a lot.
Ben Verlander with us here on GCR.
Show would have really made it if it was called.
I think it's doing okay, even as Flipping Bats.
He really is a very thoughtful guest.
Very good.
Yeah. I thought his answer he took sort of the emotion out of it, and he just sort of said that story he told about Justin Verlander and Leland.
I'd have to go back and look at those Tiger teams and where they. It is trickier, as I've said before, with a lot of these guys. With Kobe Mayo, if the Orioles were bad, you'd just say go out there and play third base every day and see if you can figure out playing third base every day. But they're not, and so. It does make this more complicated with young players where you do want to be patient. And I appreciate what Cameron Mabin said earlier. You want to be patient, but you're also trying to win a World Series.
Right.
And there's a fine line between those two things. To the point, I'm still with you that in that spot, it's not necessary that you need to have Austin Slater hit for Jackson Holliday. You did get a positive result out of it, and that's what it is.
That doesn't make it the right move. It really doesn't. I mean, I'm glad Slater walked.
I agree with that in the same way that I agree that, even when you get a bad result, it doesn't mean that the thought process was the wrong thought process, right?
Agreed.
All of that to me works.
Yeah.
The Cowser one, as I said to me, is way more egregious because you have track record. You have evidence that says this guy can hit in this spot. It's fine. He is not going to be overwhelmed in this situation. That to me is I'm so perplexed by it still. And the guy that you were pinch hitting for, at least you could say Austin Slater has some track record of delivering against lefties at the major league level. I know he said the wrong thing afterwards. He said, well, Austin Slater's hit lefties really well this year. And everybody was like, no, he hasn't. No, but he's got a career of hitting lefties. So the track record is there. There's no track record with Kobe Mayo. None. Doesn't exist. Move forward. Go win games in Tampa this week, and then we don't have to talk about it any longer.
Let's hope so. Let's hope so.
Hey, high school sports season is just around the corner, and when it returns, County Sports Zone will be reporting every score from every level in every region of the state. Eastern Shore, Western Maryland, City, County, down to the DMV, private schools.
Cecil County?
Even Cecil County. Cecil, Tucky, they got you. They're all over it. Port Deposit, Bohemia Manor. You want to know what's going on with Bohemia Manor? They got you covered.
Harford County?
Harford County for sure. If you are an Edgewood, they're the Rams, I think, right? The Rams, I think. I don't remember. Falston Cougars for sure. I know that. Bel Air Bobcats. If you're a Bel Air Bobcat, they got you. Every score, every level, every sport will be a countysports.zone. Proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. What's that? You
were correct. They are the Rams.
Edgewood Rams. I thought they were. I did a radio Harford County game of the week. For what was the radio station? I guess it must have been WAMD or WHG. One of those radio stations did a Harford County football game of the week for a little bit, and I did that. And I probably had every Harford County team. I believe it's the North Harford Hawks, the Falston Cougars, C. Milton Wright Mustangs, I believe, Joppatown Mariners, Haverty Grace Warriors, Aberdeen Eagles? Eagles? Are you checking me?
I'm trying to check as many as I can.
Are you getting on this? I'm pretty confident about
They are the Eagle, Aberdeen.
Hell yeah!
And you said the other one's confident enough? I'll give it to you.
I'm pretty sure I had all the rest of those right.
C. Milton was the Mustangs.
Yeah. Joppatown Mariners, right?
Let's see.
Is that what it was? Haverty Grace Warriors?
Sounds like one you should know.
Why? Why would I know?
Well, just if they're the Mariners, like that's unique enough.
Yeah.
They're the Mariners.
Yeah, look at that. And Haverty Grace, you got that one for me? Did I go 8 for 8 or whatever on Hartford County? I don't know how many schools there are. Oh, Hartford Tech is the other one. They're the
What did you say Haverty Grace is?
The Warriors?
Yes.
Yeah, look at your boy over here. The old Hartford County game of the week came through. Hartford Tech is that's actually where the home. I believe they're the Proctors because they're the home of John Proctor. Hartford Tech.
Oh, he's a notable alumni. Yeah.
Yeah, he made it. He made the cut. I want to say they're the Cobras, but they could be the Vipers. They're Cobras.
They're the Cobras.
Yeah. Look at this guy.
You're too much.
Look at this guy over here. Don't ask me to do it in Kent County. Don't ask me to do Carroll County. I didn't do their game of the week on radio.
Carroll County.
I couldn't do that.
They're all pretty generic.
All right, when we come back in, are you sticking around or do you got to get out of here, Stan?
I gotta go.
Okay. You will be back in action, of course, on Monday.
I'll be back in action on Monday
New
at
power rankings?
Roughly 5 o'clock. Power rankings will be out Monday, and then Eric and I will be back. Eric and I did an interesting sort of reset of the Orioles farm system.
Okay.
With his list of the top players that are still in the minor leagues.
So you can go check that out right now, as you said, at facebook.com/PressBoxSports, at Stan the Fan on Twitter, as always. Come back in, tidbit, two-bit, or wrap it up. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Escape to Ocean City, Maryland, and discover a place that just feels lighter, where every day feels like Saturday, and French fries are a food group, where flip-flops are always in fashion, and seafood is always in season, where the boardwalk is bustling and the beach is right outside your door, where you can rise with the tide and feel like a kid again. Ocean City, Maryland, somewhere to smile about. Book your trip at OCOcean.com.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs.
Have you ever thought of taking a cruise to these wonderful destinations?
Intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin, and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
Frederick Keys baseball is back. With 30 more home games beginning on July 2nd, the Keys are excited to welcome you back to Nimio Field at Harry Grove Stadium. We want to see you there. Countless promotions will be on display every game, with it ranging from Tap House Tuesdays to Firework Fridays and everything in between. For more information or to buy tickets, call 301-815-9939. or visit FrederickKeys.com today.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Driving in Maryland? Did you know an Easy Pass from DriveEasyMD.com can save you time and money? Of course you did, because you are a thrifty driver. An antenna reads your Easy Pass transponder and automatically deducts the toll from your Easy Pass account. There, you just saved money with Easy Pass, all without slowing or receiving a notice in the mail. Well done, thrifty driver, well done. Get your Easy Pass at DriveEasyMD.com.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
All right, winding down for a Friday edition of the program. Thanks to Stan the Fan for hanging out. Final days for you to get this print issue of Press Box before it is gone, and we make way next week for a new print issue of Press Box, so make sure you go get this one with Wes Moore on the cover. Of course, Ravens theme to the next print issue of Press Box is all I'll tell you. That shouldn't be all that surprising as the season's about to get underway. But I don't know if I'm supposed to say what it is or not, so I won't. You can get that next week, and we'll tell you what it is beforehand. But go get this one before it's gone with Wes Moore on the cover for free. Your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Press Box. About to go to the half. The USA women not struggling in their semifinal the way that the men did. They lead Australia 45-27 in the semifinals at the Olympics.
Thank goodness.
All right. Ready for a tidbit?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Have you ever thought of taking a cruise to these wonderful destinations with sunny skies and beautiful beaches? Well, wait no longer. We're ready for you to cruise from the Cruise Maryland Terminal.
Have a little phrase that you can go from baggage to margarita in about 15 minutes.
Choose fun with an array of destinations, onboard activities, entertainment, and world-class cuisine.
Contact your travel agent and book your cruise today. Let your adventure begin.
All right, what we got?
Over on the track, Sydney McLaughlin-Leveron. She made history. She won gold in the 400-meter hurdles. Again, she became the first woman to win gold twice in the Olympics. For the 400-meter hurdles, that was Sydney McLaughlin-Leveron. That was yesterday, so pretty cool for her to be the first woman ever to win gold twice at the Olympics. And then back over to baseball. Been a big year for Jacksons, obviously. We mentioned Jackson, Maryland. We've been talking about Jackson Holliday. It is the first time, according to Baseball Reference, the first time in a major league season that there are more Jacksons, first name, than Jackson last name. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of who the last name Jacksons would be at this point. Of course, remember famously Bo Jackson and Austin Jackson and Reggie Jackson.
There are 5 first-name Jackson, and then there are 3 last-name Jackson. I don't know who the
other 2 are. I know, obviously, Merrill, Holiday,
Churio, Jackson. I don't know who the other ones are either.
Why does there's not a Jackson Job, is there?
No, he's in the minors though.
Still in the minors.
Yeah, he's the Tigers, one of their top pitching prospects. That's why I was like, oh, they can trade Skubal because they got Job coming, but.
Who are the other Jacksons in the major league?
Jackson, Luke Jackson is the.
He's the editor of Press Box.
Right,
yes,
exactly, and he's also the relief pitcher for.
He was with
Atlanta.
The Braves. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know where he's still. Alex Jackson's that one catcher who, of course, had a home run against the Orioles for the Rays.
I don't remember that at all.
I feel like that always happens down in Tropicana. This guy for the Rays who never hits anything, and then he'll hit a home run against the Orioles. Jay Jackson, I don't know who that is.
I've never heard of that person.
There is a Jackson Stevens. Oh, he's pitched for the Braves. And he's a major leaguer. And he's a major leaguer.
Sure.
Right now, apparently. But yeah, so you're the Jackson first name in baseball right now. It would appear. And then also, so earlier in the week, Holiday did homer again. So it was 3 straight games for Jackson Holliday to hit with home runs. 3 straight games at 20 years and 247 days old. There are only 6 players younger to have a home run in 3 straight games, 3 or more games.
I can't believe there's that many.
I know. I lied, 7.
What?
There's 7 of
There's
them.
7 players that have had home runs in 3 straight games that are younger than.
7 players to homer in 3 straight
I always
games at a
guess
younger
Andrew
age.
Jones whenever we do this.
Not Andrew Jones.
Alex Rodriguez.
Not Alex Rodriguez.
Bryce Harper.
Not Bryce Harper.
Wow. Should I be thinking older?
There's 3 older guys. There's one old timey guy.
There's one old timey.
And then there's 4 guys that have done it on the other side of 2000, the other side of this millennium.
4 guys that have done it on the other side of this millennium. My God. This could be painful.
All right, well, let's try to get the 4.
The older guys.
The 4 like current guys.
All
4 actually. 3 of them are still active.
3 of them are still active.
1 is no longer active.
1 is no longer active. How about Vlad Guerrero?
Not Vlad Guerrero.
How about
neither.
Ronald Acuna?
Ronald Acuna.
Hey.
In 2018, as a youngster, he actually homered in 5 straight games.
I don't remember that. How about Manny Machado?
No Manny.
How about? I don't know when these guys came up to know, like, who else would be on the list. That's the specific part, is you have to know that they were playing baseball when they were 19 or 20 years old. Ellie De La Cruz.
No Ellie De La Cruz. There's one in 2019.
One in 2019.
He is still with the same team.
Yordan Alvarez.
Not Yordan Alvarez.
Okay.
It is a West Division, though.
It's a West Division.
So it sounds like I just gave it to it, yeah. Well, at least
There's 2 West Divisions.
Yeah.
All right, is it an Astro?
No.
Is it an Angel?
No.
Is it an Athletic? Mariner? Ranger? Okay. Is it a Rocky? Is it a Dodger? A Padre?
There it is.
Another Padre.
Another Padre
that came up and hit. It's Fernando Tatis.
It is Fernando Tatis Jr. in 2019. So Tatis, Acuna. Another one did it in 2018, the same year Acuna did.
Another 2018. Is it another West?
No.
Is it another Central?
No.
Is it a East?
It is an East.
Is it a Red Sox? Is it a Yankee?
No.
A Ray?
No.
A Blue Jay? Okay. Is it a Met?
Nope.
A National?
There it is.
It's a National. Still?
No.
Soto.
Juan Soto, yes. Juan Soto in 2018.
This is
I guess
delightful.
this is not a great one.
This has been as bad as we're playing like 20 questions is really what we're playing, which is fine. We're going to institute a 20 questions segment.
2008.
2008. Still an active player?
No, he's not
no longer an active player.
He last appeared in 2022.
Last appeared in 2022. Well, that's not that long ago.
No, it is not, but like he wasn't relevant. He hasn't been relevant since
Curtis Granderson.
Before the pandemic, probably. No, not Curtis Granderson.
I don't think he was still playing in 2022. Although you never know with some of those guys.
Yeah.
Cameron Mabin.
No, not Cameron Mabin.
That'd be perfect.
That would have.
2008. Yeah. All right. We're gonna go ahead and skip ahead to the team.
He was the team he debuted with was the Arizona Diamondbacks.
It debuted with the Arizona Diamondbacks
and
in 2008. 2008.
So he actually debuted in 07, but he was still so young in 08. That's when he accomplished
debuted
this.
in 07. I was there in 07.
He was the first.
Upton.
Yes.
Yes.
Justin Upton, the first overall draft pick in 2005, and then hit
him being young
bunch
and
of
hitting home runs.
Hit a few home runs in a row in 2008.
I remember talking to him in the clubhouse, like, dude, you're 19. That was what we had. He was like, yeah. I'm like,
you think he'll remember you? Should we try to hit him up?
Oh, I don't know. He talked to me.
See what he thinks about being on this list with Jackson Holliday.
And now some old guys.
1958.
1958.
1951.
1951.
1929.
Oh boy. 1958. 1958. Just realized they all have to be players because I did see that Jackson Holliday had the American League record.
They are.
I just realized
They
that
are.
right now. They all have to be National League.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right. They are all National Leaguers.
Stan Musial.
Not Stan.
Jackie Robinson. No, he wasn't that young. All right, give me something, dude.
They're both Giants.
Both Giants. Willie Mays.
Willie Mays in 1951.
And the other one was
1958. It was. He was a San Francisco Giant at this point.
Bobby Bonds?
No.
That would have been.
Oh, wow. They actually, all of them were Giants.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, how about that? A 1958 San Francisco Giant. Who else was Orlando Cepeda?
Orlando Cepeda.
Okay.
Well done. Cepeda in 58, Willie Mays in 51, and then in 1929, this New York Giant.
Oh, sure. I think maybe this one we just go ahead and say.
Mel Ott.
Oh, Mel Ott. That actually isn't a quintessential old. If you
Yeah.
had just said list old-timey names,
Okay.
I would have gotten to Mel Ott.
All right.
That would have happened.
We've done it many times. I didn't know if you wanted to.
Phew.
It's a good list, though, for Holiday, I think, to join here. Tatis, Acuna, Soto, Justin Upton,
Yeah. Justin
Cepeda.
Upton was a hell of a player, man.
Yeah.
Just, it was better. It was better than Grady Sizemore. Yeah. Stand by it.
See their career
He was.
wars here.
He was. But to the point, if Grady Sizemore could have kept performing like he did for those 2 years, then he would have been a great player. But Justin Upton was a better player than Grady Sizemore was. All right, let's get Tubio to wrap it up.
There is a place where tradition, family, and community gather, where the aspirations of talented young competitors takes root, and where the crossroads of history, culture, and renewal come together. This spring, experience America's newest and most innovative ballpark, Meritus Park in Hagerstown, Maryland, home of the Atlantic League Flying Boxcars. Plan your getaway today. You're welcome in Hagerstown, Maryland.
All right, here's what's coming up totally tubular-wise this weekend. Tonight, Orioles Rays 6:50 on Masson 2, Zach Eflin and Zach Littell, the pitching matchup. So Zach Eflin, it's got to be, after all this time away from Tampa, it's got to be nice for him emotional to go back after hours away from Tampa. The rest of the country can see tonight's game on ESPN+. Tomorrow night, as we mentioned, is on Fox at 7:15. Corbin Burns on the mound against TBA for the Rays. Who's that going to be? I guess it probably can check roster.
It was you said Springs on Sunday, right?
Yeah,
so they
well,
did
it
it.
will be,
Yeah,
but,
they announced that.
Well, let's see. They've got for tomorrow allegedly Ryan Pepio. Why would that not be announced?
Because was he hurt or like was he day to day or something?
Not
maybe?
on, I don't know the answer.
He definitely was hurt, but I thought he'd come back.
Okay, well, whatever. It might be Ryan Pepio. We'll
Try
find out.
Try to get to the bottom of it.
And on Sunday, Masson at 1:40, Albert Suarez and Jeffrey Springs. That one is also the free game of the day on MLB TV. So if you don't live in Baltimore, good weekend. You have the opportunity, if you're an ESPN Plus subscriber, to watch all 3 games this week.
Oh, yeah, so he would have to be activated off the IL.
Right, that's the answer. Okay. Tonight, Ravens preseason, it's on ABC2 tonight is the way to watch it. If for some reason you would like doing that, I don't know why.
Yeah, you should be at the game.
So, yeah, right? Says this guy. It's at 7:30, Eagles and Ravens. Whip Snakes. I believe this is a regular season finale because I think next weekend is their off weekend.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Tonight against the Denver Outlaws at 8 o'clock on ESPN.
Bit of a homecoming, just try to spoil them here.
Right? Sure.
They're in Denver.
That's on ESPN Plus. Olympics continue. The women's basketball game is at the half right now. That's on USA. That's the only other USA team event today, so everything else will be individual stuff. And then, like, the beach volleyball, which everybody thought was going to involve the USA, but none of them are playing for medals this afternoon, so enjoy anyway. Tomorrow, Olympics, some of the highlights, the women's soccer gold medal match at 11 a.m., Brazil and the U.S., men's basketball, that's on USA. Men's basketball gold medal, Team USA in France at 3:30 on NBC. Women's water polo bronze medal against the Netherlands at 4:35 a.m. on the E! Network. Sunday, the women's volleyball gold medal match is USA-Italy at 7 a.m. Looks like women's basketball will be playing for the gold at 9:30 a.m. Both those on NBC. And the, of course, closing ceremonies are on NBC Sunday at 3 o'clock. Anything non-sports-wise?
I'm trying to figure out when Kyle Snyder, because he's wrestling tomorrow. It'll probably be like early morning. I'm trying to figure out the exact time.
Okay.
Sorry. I missed, I don't know, Umbrella Academy.
A lot of Gold Zone with the wrestling this morning.
Final season of Umbrella Academy is out. That was actually out last night, I think, or yesterday. And then
the show I've been giving a shot to is Unstable on Netflix with Rob Lowe. Season 2 just came out, but I'd never watched
It's with his son, right? Or like someone plays his son, or no, it's his actual son playing his son. I think it's his actual son playing his son in the show, right?
He definitely plays his son in the show. I didn't know if that was his actual son.
I could be wrong.
You're right about that. Yeah, John Owen Lowe. So there you go.
New episode of Lady in the Lake on Apple TV Plus. Also on Apple TV Plus, a movie with Matt Damon, The Instigators. Matt Damon, Casey Affleck. Yeah, he replaced Ben Affleck with Casey. I don't know what Ben did to him.
By the way, they're doing apparently a
it looks kind of interesting.
The two, Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, are going to do another movie together. Crazy, right? This one is
5:42 Kyle Snyder tomorrow morning.
Yeah. Probably will not make it. Probably will not be up for that one. They're doing a movie called like The Undoing of Gawker. It's like about Hulk Hogan's lawsuit. I have less than zero interest
a movie.
In this. Yeah, they're making that a movie. And like who's Peter Thiel and all that. Like could not have less interest in that as a movie.
Say that now.
If they're turning it into like an Uber comedy, right? Like where they're trying to make fun of all of these people somehow, like maybe.
So
none of that is interesting to me.
So like it's not gonna be like Air. Like Air was obviously a great movie.
It was not a great movie. It was not at all a great movie. Because they think that the story was about the two guys that dumbed their way into Michael Jordan. Like it's so uncompelling. The idea that you made a movie about Michael Jordan and you didn't see Michael Jordan ever during the course of the film. And
that was the point, I guess, right?
Yeah, that was the point, which is you missing the point, which is this story is not worthy of this.
Well, it was about Nike.
Yeah, that's not a worthy story. It's just not.
I mean, they made a movie out of it, and I was entertained personally.
Yeah,
I'm a Mark, and
you're a Mark. You're a Mark. That's the best way to say it.
And it worked.
Yeah, we gotta go.
Bike Riders is out on streaming on Peacock.
Whatever that is.
That was,
we did talk about Bike Riders.
Michael Shannon's in it, and
we did. You're right.
I liked it.
When's our movie going to be available
Butler.
on streaming? I don't even remember what it was called.
It was called Dominic Lombardozzi. And
thanks today to Stan the Fan. Thanks to Ben Verlander. Thanks also to Cameron Mabin. We'll get all of it up in the greatest hits section of the...
Oh, my God.
It's so good to have it. GlennClarkRadio.com. Sunday, Reed and I will be with you from 12 to 2. Monday... I do know that Joel Poiley, who wrote the Tom Maddie book, will be joining us in studio on Monday. Stuff and Things, of course, as well. Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including the Maryland 5-Star Live Casino and Hotel. Visit Hagerstown in Washington County, Cruise, Maryland, Ocean City, Easy Pass, Royal Farms, the Ed Block Courage Awards, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, Costas Inn, MSAA, the Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin at Griffin_Bass. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great weekend. Go Birds. Go Whip Snakes. Go Team USA's. Please don't let any Raven get hurt. Duke sucks.